Hey everybody, it's Aldo, and I just want to let you know really quickly that our swag shop is reopened. DeepDishTees.com is where you go, and that's tees with T-E-E-S. Clever name, guys. They're the new home of our merchandise. You can get t-shirts, you can get caps, you can get coffee mugs, you can get hoodies, you can get all sorts of good stuff, and you'll help out the bar room with the purchase. So head over to DeepDishTees.com. Well, I screwed that up. Hey everybody, it's Aldo, and I just want to let you know really quickly that our swag shop is reopened. DeepDishTees.com is where you go, and that's tees with T-E-E-S. Clever name, guys. They're the new home of our merchandise. You can get t-shirts, you can get caps, you can get coffee mugs, you can get hoodies, you can get all sorts of good stuff, and you'll help out the bar room with the purchase. So head over to DeepDishTees.com.
Some may find the following disturbing. Discretion is advised.
Put the children to bed. It's time for Dan and Aldo to bare their souls.
I love the Chicago Bears more than I do masturbating, and that is a lot.
Then, with 3 seconds left, Bob Avellini throws a 30-something yard touchdown pass to Greg Latta, and the Bears win, and I literally shit my pants. I swear to God, I literally did.
Eric Kramer, for me, I love the guy. He's a tragic figure. I mean, he embodies all that is.
If they don't run the ball here, I'm going to vomit. I swear to God.
Look, I don't mean any disrespect. He just didn't play that well. Not for a guy of his caliber.
You know, they won, but I'm going to be miserable all week because they stunk.
I don't really have any recollection of that at all, but I guess perhaps I blacked it all out.
So Dan, tape is the ultimate tool for scouts and for coaches to evaluate players, to detect plays and so forth. And they spend hours looking at tape, right? Why do they so often get shit wrong?
Ladies and gentlemen, Dan and Aldo.
In the house, Aldo Gandia is sunburned and in the house. I went to Family Fest tonight, and I gotta tell you, the Chicago Bears are one dysfunctional family. Dan, how are you, brother?
You know, last week's show was so fun, and that's the complete opposite of the way I feel coming into tonight. I don't want to feel like the sky is falling on August the 3rd, but man, just reading Twitter and barroom correspondent Aldo Gandia inform me on some of the shenanigans at Family Fest. And nothing. I've heard nothing that was optimistic thus far. Nothing.
Yeah. So let me. I mean, go ahead, please.
Go ahead.
No, please go ahead.
I was going to say, so both of our tackles have been out. And then I read today that I'm still trying to discern if James Daniels is our left guard or right guard. And then he leaves today with a thigh injury. So Daniels is hurt again. Both tackles are hurt. And the backup that we signed, the guy that you shit on last week, he's hurt as well. Like, who the fuck is playing the line right now? That's
right.
the question.
That's right. And then Eddie Goldman is under the COVID protocol.
Oh, the irony of all ironies, isn't it?
So did he or did he not get vaccinated? Because if he didn't get vaccinated, then the protocols are much more strenuous to get back on the field. And if the guy decided to hold out last year because of COVID concerns, why the fuck wouldn't you get the vaccination? Someone please explain it to me if that's the case. If that's the case. So I don't want to speculate, but just the whole idea that he hasn't pronounced or the team hasn't pronounced, yes, he's vaccinated, leads me to believe that perhaps he hasn't. And all this bullshit about that's a private thing, fuck that. Everyone is on the injury list. Everyone is on the COVID list. So why not say, yeah, he took his medication, which is essentially what this is, preventive medication. So I'm pissed off about that. In fact, I'm so pissed off about a lot of things, Dan. You're right. This could be like a one gigantic shit show of a shit show because I feel, I felt like today at Family Fest, I walk in there after like a 3-mile walk because there's no fucking parking over at Soldier Field anywhere nearby. And so I walk in there and there's like less than 3,000 fans in the stands. It filled up probably about double that by the time it really got going. But then I remember, Family Fest in Green Bay where they've got 66,000 people. Other NFL cities have fans riled up for their preseason scrimmages. At Hallis Hall, they've got 100, 200, 300 fans after a lot of people didn't use the free tickets they got. It's just a fucking mom and pop NFL organization that has me up to here. And today was one of those days that happens to all of us frustrated Bears fans where we think, am I fucking really, rooting for this team? Am I cheering for this team? Am I spending so much of my life for this team where they don't do anything right for the fans? I was just so fucking frustrated that I wish you were here so I could cry on your shoulder.
No, it truly is bizarre because from my recollections of the past, whenever they had the Family Fest, it was always a Thursday night, like somewhere near the third preseason game.
Mm-hmm.
And to have it this early into camp on a Tuesday morning, like what the fuck?
It must have been COVID concerns or something like that. And 2 years ago, I went to Family Fest. It was on a Friday or Saturday night. I remember it vividly because Lollapalooza was also happening. And so as I was taking that 3-mile hike to the stadium, there's all these fucking gorgeous girls in fishnet stockings and wearing just bra and panties and all these sexy outfits. And I'm like, man, I got a boner on the way to Soldier Field. It was a great time walking there, and it was a great time there. I had front row seats. I was talking to players. I was talking to media people. I got to meet Gaines for the first time. I got to meet RKB from the Barfly Tailgate. I met all these people, and today it was just me and Danny Shimon out in the sun getting sunburned and trying to listen to each other over the loud fucking music that I don't know why they need to fucking play music at 180 decibels at a Family Fest where the little kids are like looking at me and saying, please make it stop. I got no control of the music, kid. I had a miserable time. The only good thing was watching.
How long is Family Fest?
It was about 3 hours. 3 hours. And then here's another complaint. So they've got cameras all over the place, not broadcasting, but closed circuit video on the two screens, which they finally 3-4 years ago got high def screens. So whoever is fucking directing that is just missing all sorts of great action. Like they would have the defense on one side of the field and then the offense on one side of the field. And it just so happened there were many times where after a play was done on one side that the director should go to the cameras on the other side so that they could put it up on the screen and not miss any action. And there's a camera lingering around on somebody, Chris Tonga on the sideline, eating his boogers, and they put a video up of like this kid was playing the music. He's probably like 12, 13, 14 years old. He looked like a young kid. He's on the he's DJing with the whole workout, the whole DJ equipment, and the camera's on him for like 5 minutes. I'm saying, get the fucking camera off that kid and put it on Justin Fields. He's on the field. Like, oh my gosh.
I don't know if it was a kid or if that was Adam Johns. He looks young. He lets a compliment to Johns.
He's a young looking man. There's no doubt about it. So and then of course the product on the field, like you mentioned, this offensive line, Dan, I'm worried. I'm fucking worried. I know it's early. I know there's still time to correct stuff. I know. But I had these concerns weeks ago. I had these concerns when they drafted Jenkins and dropped Leno, thinking, well, where's the depth? Well, the depth was also injured today, like you mentioned. And the right tackle now has Jenkins and Ifedi have not practiced at all. These are the starting tackles. Are we not worried? Are we not concerned? And as you mentioned, there's a carousel of guys playing the guard and center. And I understand they want to take a look at these guys. They want to see what's the best position and so forth. But it just still feels like, man, I'm not confident about this. I get it. I'm overreacting. I get it, guys. I get it. But still, it is what it is.
But, I mean, within total context, the first preseason game is in 11 days.
Thank you.
So, I mean, I know it doesn't count in terms of late November. We're not going to be looking at the playoff push thinking like, well, what the hell happened in that Dolphins preseason game? But still, it does matter because it's going to be live and people are going to be getting hit. And again, it's not going to hurt your statistics or your position in the NFC North when everything matters later on, but still it matters because there are only 3 of these games and you have to assume that the third one is the throwaway game now. So now we're down to 2. And if the first one is without both starting tackles, are you really going to put Fields out there? The first game, if you're missing both tackles, maybe Nick Foles goes the whole 4 quarters. I mean, you don't really want to put Dalton out there if he's going to get just fucking beaten into the ground, and you damn sure don't want to put the kid out there if he's just going to get hit and not play with the line that he would normally play with. So yeah, it's a huge concern. And with regards to Goldman, I just wanted to say that I think it was Patrick Finley. I apologize if I'm not giving the appropriate attribution because I read the story 3-4 hours ago. But within his story, he speculated that the rumor was that Goldman was indeed vaccinated, but he had been unable to corroborate that in an official setting. However, that he believes that Goldman is vaccinated. Okay, well, that's good news. And I apologize to Eddie Goldman. I apologize to the world. I've been in an irritable mood, and I apologize to King Pookie Nation Alvarez. I told him that I tell him where I was sitting, and I never got to it. I was trying to provide as much video on the Barroom account as possible. And so the only way to do that was just kind of shut out the outside world. And then I had Danny with me, and Danny's talking to me, and I'm trying to shoot video, and I was just fucking overwhelmed. The sun is beating down on me. And so I was in a bad mood. And as you could tell, I'm going to recover now because I am having a little coffee. I took a nap and I'm waking up, and I'm going to have a shot of 4 roses here and get back into the mood so we can have a great show. And I want to apologize. Last week's show, which was a 5-hour marathon, and we had Brandy on, a very good friend of Dan Aguirre's. That show, Podbean kind of spit it back out because of its length. And so I hope to have it up soon. I know a lot of people are wondering, what happened to the show and so forth. So we'll get that corrected. And any other show that we had to bypass because of issues with Pod fucking Bean. If you're starting a podcast, don't go to Podbean. Those fuckers are doing some false advertising. Now, if they fix this tomorrow, then we'll revisit that. And you can say, if you're starting a podcast, then go to Podbean. But if they continue to put things out, then you'll leave that in. Yes. Hey, was Greg Braggs there today? Greg told me he was there, so I'm assuming. I never got a chance to look at his Twitter account, so I don't know. I bet it would have taken a natural disaster to keep Greg from being there, so I'm sure he was there. And by the way, Robert Quinn, though, wasn't there. That's another thing. The mighty Quinn, the mighty Quinn's back is hurt from what I've read.
Okay. Braggs was there according to Gonzo. Thank you, Gonzo. So that's another thing. This guy's back. Apparently, Nagy is like, oh, he's been so great in practice. Well, yeah, of course, because neither of the offensive tackles that you have slated as starters have been playing. But yeah, he's been so great in practice, and now he's got he tweaked it a little bit. So we're just being really careful and so forth. And that was another thing that irritated me after I got back. I sat down to listen to a portion of Matt Nagy's press conference, and he didn't do a press conference after the practice. He did the press conference before the practice, and it's gotten to the point. Dan, have you ever had a good friend or a relative or a special person in your life where you could tell where they were lying?
Oh, for sure.
That's Matt
Especially
Nagy.
when I was going through my divorce.
You and me both, brother.
Duplicitous is the word.
All right. So he starts off the press conference, and it's like, let me start. He's got this long list of injuries of guys who are not going to practice. Again, this is before the practice. Why he won't talk to the media after practice, which is like what you do after a game, right? So you can tell, so we could ask questions and find out what was Justin thinking about this interception or what. No, they want to meet before practice and then throw out why these guys aren't playing and then gloss over it. It just felt like he was withholding information. And again, we find out after the game about the Goldman vaccination thing. So it's I just had a bad day, man. It's just
I guess the positive, if you can buy into the hype and the things I've been reading, it seems like Trevathan's looking good. Does that sound affirmative to you?
That is affirmative to me. He was one of probably a half dozen guys that I wanted to give a shout out to. Danny looks as good as he looked at any time last season. And I know at the second half of last season, he started to get back to himself. What looks like he's starting there at this point. I was watching him on they've got these gigantic donuts made out of foam. It was actually the Green Bay Packers that started using these tackling donuts about 5-6 years ago at their camp. And it looks like Mike Pettin has brought it from Green Bay. So they got these giant donuts, and they're running these drills where they're flying back and then coming back in and bursting into the donut and knocking the shit out of the donut. And his explosion was there. And on the field during 7-on-7s and 11-on-11s, he looked like the Danny Trevathan that we sorely miss. And another guy that looked tremendous, Roquan Smith. Oh my effing God. He looked like in his movements, he looked like Mikhail Baryshnikov. Remember the famous ballet dancer, how smooth he was and leaping and just looking so graceful? That is Roquan Smith. They were running these drills where they backpedal on the hash line, the yard marker, straight line. They got to backpedal on a straight line, and he is doing it so flawlessly. The tips of his feet hitting on the line as he's going backwards, and then he'll cut to the left, cut to the right. He looks so graceful, and then out in the field, he was just all over the field making plays. He's another guy that looks like he's going to have the type of season that he's going to demand huge dollars from this Bears organization, and they better pay him.
Think he's going to get it, though, right?
Oh, he has to get it. This is the cornerstone of the defense now. This guy,
yeah, and he's your pick. I mean, he's your first round pick.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. I mean, the whole Leonard Floyd thing, just to me, it doesn't sit well. I know a lot of fans were down on him, but this guy was more than capable of doing what was being asked of him. And the fact that he played in coverage a lot, the fact that he was so versatile, people overlook that because they look at stats and they look at quarterback pressures and so forth. And he didn't do that really as well as he should have here in Chicago, but there were so many other things that he was doing so well. And the fact that we let him go and now we replace him with Robert Quinn, who can't stay on the football field and is, 6 years older, that just doesn't make any fucking sense to me. God damn.
And this is Roquan's fourth year. So I assume based upon the fact that he was the number 1 pick, they have a 5th-year option for him, right?
Yes.
And they're going to pick it up.
Oh, for sure. I think that maybe they already have, but yeah, that's a no-brainer. That's definitely a no-brainer. And when his huge monumental contract comes up, I think all that TV money will be available. So that's good news. They should have plenty of cap space to make that a hopefully drama-free negotiation between the Bears and Roquan Smith's agent.
And I mean, again, not to get too far ahead of ourselves, you have to think by the time they have to sign him, you're going to be without Foles' contract. You could possibly be without Khalil Mack's and Allen Robinson's contracts, which isn't exactly what we want to hear, but I'm just saying that's the reality of business.
Bruce, Ali, Walter Jordan, when I was talking about Nagy lying, he writes, Trump has made me completely intolerant to lying. Fuck Trump and fuck Nagy.
Hey, remember you used to have a segment, the tweets of the week?
Yes, I know.
That's the
100%.
fucking tweet of the year.
Well done, Bruce, Ali, Walter, and Jordan. That's a great moniker.
Give that man a free shirt.
Bruce, reach out to me. We'll get you a free shirt. So that was awesome. Got to talk about the quarterback play because, oh man, I was very thankful to be sitting next to Danny Shimon, who is a professional scout. This guy has made money scouting players for agents, for publications. This guy knows what he's doing. If you saw any episode at all last season of Draft on Tap that he co-hosts with Neil Stopchinski, you know that this guy puts in the work. He knows what he's talking about and so forth. So he's pointing out to me all these things that Justin is doing wrong, and a lot of it just has to do with experience. But yeah, and I saw it. It's like, why is he still holding the ball? What's going on? And now there could be something going on where the coaches have told them, don't run with the ball here. Just try to find something. So who knows exactly? But there were just certain things that you wished, man, I wish he was a little further ahead, because right now, if you had to pick a starter, it's definitely Andy Dalton. And of course, the Bears have. But I'm just saying, as a fan, and from what I saw today, Dalton was better with those anticipatory throws that Nagy and Allen Robinson gave him kudos for in an earlier press conference. Dalton was more in command of the offense. Now, he doesn't have the arm that Justin Fields has. He doesn't have the athletic skills that Justin Fields. Justin Fields is going to be a great quarterback. I don't have any doubt about that, but it's just going to take a while based on what I saw today, So I just wish, on a day where I was feeling miserable, I was just wishing for more huge plays. And he had a few. There's no doubt about it. But and then there was the one thing that Chris Sims, your buddy Chris Sims, Dan Aguirre, he dissed Fields during pre-draft and right after the draft, saying that Fields has a long windup and that he would bring the ball down low and then throw it. And he says, you can't get away with that in the NFL. That's going to telegraph his safeties are going to come in and converge. And there were a handful of throws where I saw that deep throwing motion where the ball would come down to his waist and then he would fire. And then, as I pointed out to Danny on the very next play, it was like corrected. And he said that's just probably something they've been working with him on, and he's trying to get better, but it's not 100% better yet. So, throwing motions. If you remember Aaron Rodgers, who sat 3 seasons with the Green Bay Packers, his throwing motion at Cal is just totally different from the throwing motion with the Green Bay Packers, because of those fine coaches, quarterback coaches and offensive coordinators and so forth, worked with Rodgers and rejiggering his throwing motion. And so that might be something that Fields will have to do. Maybe not as dramatic as a change as Rodgers did, and not as slow as a change, but it is something to keep an eye on. If Fields gets out there in an NFL game and is throwing passes late, it could be because of the motion. I'm asking all fans, Dan Aguirre, myself, and everyone watching the show, let's keep an eye on Fields' throwing motion, because it's a little bit of a concern.
Is he still rocking that big orange beard? Because that's a big concern too.
You know what? I didn't notice, to be honest with you. I only noticed him on the field. I never spotted him on the sideline with helmet off, kind of thing. It was very, very bizarre because me and everyone else there, we came out to see Andy Dalton. I mean, excuse me, Justin Fields. And it's like Andy Dalton was like an afterthought, you know, and when they introduced the quarterbacks, they introduced all 3-4 quarterbacks at the same time. And as soon as they said Justin Fields' name, big crowd cheer. And then, you know, Andy Dalton barely got applause or anything like that. So I'm sure it was a very bizarre practice for Andy Dalton.
Maybe Dalton's growing the beard to show, like, hey, I'm Mr. Chicago Bear now. Look at my orange fucking beard.
That would be a nice gesture. Did you get a chance to hear any of Nick Foles' press conference yesterday? I did not, and apparently he was upset and saying that he denied the trade and he wants to go to the right situation. Did you hear any of that?
No, I read about it. I was reading that he wanted to go somewhere where he either knew, I guess was saying that he wanted to know like some of the coaches and so I got the impression he was like, all right, Indianapolis, I know Frank Reich. I know Carson. Yeah, please bring me over. But reportedly they are not interested in him and they think Wentz will be back by opening day. But furthermore, I read that that was his largest concern was to not go to a team where he didn't know people on the team or didn't know the coaches.
Mm-hmm.
Which is kind of weird. I mean, you think in the NFL, if you're getting paid that money, you'll make it work.
Yes, you're close to the end of your fucking career. Go somewhere where you're wanted. I'm sorry, Nick Foles. It's not like you're a bad person. You inspired me last year with that speech that you had. I put music to it and so forth. I was fired up. I was ready to go buy a Nick Foles jersey. I'm glad I didn't. And so, but at this point, you know, why? If there's a deal on the table and you could be the number 2 quarterback and potentially number 1 quarterback, why are you now? It could be like you're saying that he's been trying to angle for a trade to the Colts, but Danny told me that Greg Gabriel, our very own Greg Gabriel here from BARROOM Network, former scouting director for the Chicago Bears, said that the Colts weren't interested in trading for Nick Foles, according to a tweet. I'll have to confirm that. I'll have to look for it. But anything that comes from the Colts on Greg's Twitter is probably correct because Greg Ballard, the GM there, and Greg Gabriel are really good friends. I mean, he can pick up the phone right now and call Chris and say, hey, how you doing and stuff. So
do you think that maybe Carson plays a role in that? Maybe he's like, fuck that guy. I don't want him coming and taking my job again.
Could be. It could be. I mean, some of these quarterbacks are very, very sensitive, and Carson Wentz kind of proved that last year with the whole Jalen Hurts and how he handled that. He was so upset. If that's the case, if he is telling management, I don't want that guy here, that apparently he's got the same ego issues or sensitivity issues or whatever the fuck is wrong with him that he had last year and did not endear him with Eagles management, which is why they were happy to get rid of him.
He's another guy with a big orange beard.
That's right. A big orange beard and a deteriorating body. I don't think he's going to be in the NFL long. I think the Colts are going to not be happy about that acquisition. It could set that franchise. I'm
so
back.
Happy we didn't get him because, I mean, I can't remember exactly what the Colts had to give up to get him. It wasn't, you know, the 3 first-round picks that we were, you know, trying to get Russell Wilson with, but still, he had such a horrible 2020 that I don't know if anyone ever rebounds from a season that poorly when you throw, was it like 14 touchdowns and 16 picks, or it was something to that in that ballpark. I just, man, it's going to be, he's going to have a full resurgence to recover from that. I mean, it's just going to be difficult. Meanwhile, Foles kind of exemplifies the point. Now, I get business is business in the league and you're going to take the money. He had such a huge deal from Jacksonville when he left, but he and Case Keenum, if you could look back 3 years, you'd be like, guys, look, Foles, you have to stay with Philadelphia. You're a fucking legend here. Make it work. Make it work. You just stay here in case Keenum should have stayed in Minnesota. Even if he was the backup to Cousins. I mean, you're not going to be anything anywhere else, but for whatever reason, it worked for you up there. Sometimes that situation, you need to be surrounded, whether it be the coaches or the right team or something. You have that fluidity and that chemistry, and you try to go somewhere else, and you can never match it. And it seems like Foles is in that category, unfortunately, because we've seen him now with the Rams and the Bears, and obviously he was in the Chiefs camp, but he didn't play, and Jacksonville. And it's just like the dude, he's magic when he's with the Eagles, but with everybody else, he's just been a guy. But hell, he had that phenomenal 2013 out there. And then the phenomenal, what was it, 18 when they won the 17 when they're, whatever fucking year that was when they won the Super Bowl.
17, I think it was. Yeah.
Yeah. It was in February of 18, but the 17 season.
Right,
so
right.
yeah, he's had 2 phenomenal seasons, but I don't know if we're going to get to unload him or not. I think it would behoove the Bears for their salary cap. For sure. Even if you could only get like a 7th round pick, just please take him.
Yes. And that was Mule Skinner just put up in the chat room. I know the Foles cap cut would be harsh, but maybe he needs to be shown the door. I would say all of us need to be a little bit patient. There are going to be more quarterbacks going down. And as we get closer and closer to preseason games and the time where everybody starts getting nervous about their roster and so forth, there's going to be demand for Nick Foles. And he's going. It
could be here with our offensive line.
Thank you. Yes, exactly. Let's keep Justin Fields bubble wraps because this offensive line is so putrid. So go out there, Nick, and take the punishment for your team.
I mean, especially in that first preseason game, if neither tackle is back, you can't tell me they're going to play Dalton more than a quarter in that first game.
Yeah.
And you don't want to play Fields for 2 or 3 quarters with no offensive line.
Well, they're going to have to. And so what they're going to do is have, lots of chipping. The play calling is going to be super vanilla. There's going to be a lot of max protect. There's going to be a lot of running the ball. And by the way, a big thumbs up to the running game today. I'll talk more at length about that, but to your point again, yeah, they have to go. They're going to have to game plan to protect the quarterbacks and not so much, try to install things that will help them during the season. This is going to be an ugly situation with this team until they get this offensive line figured out. And like, I think it was Patrick Finley in today's Chicago Sun-Times wrote that the only veterans out there are guys who are making way too much money or guys who are problem childs that we're going to think twice about bringing them into your locker room. And if those guys are even available. So it's a really, really bad situation. And before we continue, I just want to say really quickly, because I want to make sure I get this right, because Greg Gabriel will kick my ass. He retweeted Chris Mortensen saying the Colts are not trading for Foles, Minshew, or Mariota at this time. Carson Wentz begins rehabbing his foot after 2 weeks. He hasn't been ruled out week 1, but it's optimistic. If this relatively safe surgery and rehab gets complicated, then another vet quarterback will be considered. And then Greg added, same info I have. Wentz should be ready week 1. So
don't forget that your very own Dan Aguirre also tweeted that yesterday.
My man, Dan Aguirre. Can't wait to see you in Cleveland, man. We're going to go out and we're going to party. We're going to get some whores. We're going to go fucking eat at the finest restaurants in Cleveland, like McDonald's and Burger King. And we're going to have a fucking great time.
I was thinking when you were saying that, like that little guy in Bachelor Party that slept with the cross-dressing prostitute, that he was like, we want hookers and we want drugs, and he had like 7 things in a row, a litany of things that they were going to do. If you ever saw a Bachelor Party.
Ravi says that the resolution on my video camera has been cranked up and now he feels like he's in the room with me. Yes, I noticed that when I went to hit my camera broadcast, all of a sudden the 1080 window opened up. We usually broadcast in 1020 by 720, but now it's like full high def. And so this must be really scary for people seeing my face in high definition. Holy shit. Dan, when are our fans going to get to see you on camera? Is it going to be in Cleveland where we'll be doing a live show from there? We'll get to finally see your face and mouth move when you talk?
Well, as you know, here the tower is so far away at work. There's no way for me to hook up a webcam. It's just not. I've shown you it's not feasible. So yeah, I guess it would have to be Cleveland. But going back real quickly to the offensive line, what if Denver was to cut Bobby Massey? Maybe that's a guy we bring back. I mean, he can't be that expensive, and he knows everybody here. If the Broncos would cut him, I'm just saying.
As of right now, Dan, the offensive tackle position for the Chicago Bears is a lot worse than it was at any point when Bobby Massey and Charles Leno were the starting tackles. That's a fact.
That's scary too.
Yes, that is scary. I hate to say it, but that's a fact. There were, some moments when those guys were adequate enough. And so now we're not even at adequate. Not when the guy who Matt Nagy was talking about was Tevin Jenkins' left tackle backup. Elijah Wilkinson is also injured and not playing. I'm really.
How is everybody getting hurt during conditioning drills?
That's a great question, Dan. I don't know. They weren't supposed. This is the first time they had pads on, and they weren't really fucking hitting. Nagy said before the practice, "Yeah, you're gonna hear some thudding out there." There was no fucking thudding. There was a fight that broke out. I think it was. Danny says that he thinks it was Lachavius Simmons, the backup offensive tackle, and Akeem Hicks going at it. And I'm not surprised Akeem Hicks would be in the middle of a brawl, but they had to be separated. It lasted about 3, 4, 5 minutes. Not the fight itself, but the pushing and shoving and the talking back and forth and stuff.
My money's on 9-6.
Yes. Simmons, he may be the starting left tackle. By the way, kudos to Ryan Badgley on Sunday's All-Star show that we had here. He said, watch for Alex Bars to potentially be the left tackle. And Bars got some work there at left tackle and didn't look half bad. Now, he wasn't going up against any of the starters when they plugged them in there. But that could be a potential solution. If you remember, it was 2 years ago when Bars in a preseason game had to play some left tackle and looked good at it. So he played it in college at Notre Dame. So he could be a dark horse to come in there and potentially hold up that position until Jenkins gets healthy. And then the other thing about Jenkins getting healthy is he still has to prove he can play the position. He only played eight times in his college career. So
I have another what if for you. This is probably a dark horse, but what if the Kansas City Chiefs would say, we're going to let you go, Kyle Long? Mm-hmm. You think he's talked too much shit about the organization for them to pick him up?
Yes.
If the Chiefs were to release him?
Yes, I do. I really do. I think, first of all, I don't think that Kyle Long can play football anymore. I'm being pessimistic. I haven't seen anything but what I saw of his last half dozen games as a Chicago Bear. This guy was not anywhere near where he would have. Now, he's apparently worked really hard, but then he gets injured again. I just feel that his body is breaking down. So I don't think Kyle Long, I don't think he's the answer to our questions at all. I think we have to look elsewhere. We have to look at guys whose names we probably have never heard before, who scouts have said, man, this guy's got potential. We need to get them in here, Ryan Pace, and start giving them some snaps. We need to just shore up this offensive line. Ravi says Kyle Long probably talked too much shit. Yeah, you're right, Dan. And then Ravi also adds Whitehair could do it. And that is very interesting because Cody Whitehair did play a lot of left tackle at Iowa. Now, the the thinking by scouts then was, well, he'll probably have to go out inside because his arms are too short and so forth. And I had a long conversation with Greg Gabriel and talked a little bit with Danny Shimon about it. What's this whole arms too long and so forth? And it's like when you're playing the outside tackle, you're basically one-on-one on an island. And so you need those long arms to keep the defender away from you. Even if you're losing an inch or two to the defender, it can make a huge difference. And so there have been, though, super left tackles who have had short arms, but they have amazing feet. So that if the arm battle they lose, they can get their feet over and still get in front of the pass rusher, get in between the pass rusher and the quarterback. So does Cody Whitehair have those super quick feet? I don't know. But he would be.
If we move him to tackle again, it'll just be another year where he's playing another position.
I'm with you, brother.
And I'll be thinking that the Bears just sabotaged his run, and he'll be another guy they drafted and let walk after his first contract.
Mm-hmm. When I interviewed Eric Galko, great guy, executive director of the East-West Shrine Game, which is in Vegas, by the way, during the week of the Pro Bowl. So that would be pretty cool to go out and watch the East-West Shrine Game, hang out with all the Vegas strippers, Vegas people, and just have a great time. But that's another story. Eric Galko, what was I was going to say? Eric Galko said that Tevin Jenkins is a plug-and-play starting right tackle. To have him play at left tackle now, it's going to take patience and time. But he says when we scouted Tevin Jenkins, we knew immediately that this guy, you could put him in at right tackle and he would play well there from the start and could potentially be a Pro Bowl caliber player at right tackle. At left tackle, you're going to have to be patient, and his ceiling is probably not nearly as high as it is for him at the right tackle position. And Eric Galko, he's a guy that you got to take seriously, and that's what Danny Shimon has been saying too. Danny says he's a right tackle, guys. He's a right tackle. So that's what worries me about this whole fucking situation. We haven't seen him at left tackle, and people in the know say he can't play. I mean, we haven't seen him at left tackle, and people in the know saying he's really a right tackle. So we got to figure that out. Got to figure it out, man.
Who was the guy about 4 or 6 weeks ago that had gotten released, a left tackle that everyone was wanting the Bears to sign? Do you recall? It was a veteran that got released about a month and a half ago.
Oh, man. I bet you someone in the chat room will come up with it, but
I can't recall who it was either. I was going to say, is that guy still out there?
Yeah.
Because it was one of those things like, do the Bears have enough money to get him? But I can't remember who it was.
Well, there's some guys out there like Jason Peters, I believe, is still out there. The big-time offensive tackle. Let me see. He is a free agent now. He's 39 years old.
And we did that with Orlando Pace.
You remember that? What a fucking awful.
Yeah. That was part of Jay Cutler's 2009 first year with the Bears was yes. Orlando Pace.
Yes. But we may be forced to bring in Orlando Pace himself.
And the guy from the Chiefs that missed the Super Bowl is still out there, but I don't know how healthy he is, Eric Fisher.
Yeah, that's another thing, because that's a really, really good name. I got to imagine that the fact that a guy of that caliber, that quality, is just not ready to play now. And so they're just, people are just waiting to see some tape to see if he can even walk, because I guess it was an Achilles.
Yeah, he was hurt. Yeah, and he was hurt during the AFC Championship game too. Mm-hmm. So he was hurt in late January.
Mm-hmm. Mule Skinner says Schwartz is the best left tackle free agent out there who's available, but he's coming off of a back injury. Suit him up, Mule.
Sounds like Chris Williams. Let's draft him.
And there's been a lot of Chris Williams mentions in the chat. Dan, Chris Williams, and who was the other guy who went on to Dallas and had a good career?
Gabe Carimi.
Gabe Carimi. No, was it Gabe?
No. Gabe Carimi was the bust, and a little bit before that. We're going back to 2002, though. Fuck. He was our number one draft pick in 2002.
Right. He was awful here in Chicago. Gabe Carimi.
Wait, he got hurt, though. I wouldn't call him
Mark
awful.
Colombo, Ryan.
Mark Colombo. Yeah, he just got hurt at that fucking field in Champaign.
Yes. And then the thing with Karimi was interesting, because I was so high on him coming out of Wisconsin. Wisconsin had a stupendous offensive line that year, and I was talking to guys who follow University of Wisconsin football, and they were telling me, man, you guys are going to get a great guy in Gabe Karimi. He's got it all. And to me, he looked good in camp. And then he suffered a really early injury, and that was it. He was just never the same. He never even looked like he could potentially be an average football player. That injury seemed to just suck the soul out of him, and he didn't want to play hard anymore. It was just a wasted draft pick. Man, the Bears have had some really bad picks on the offensive line. I hope Tevin Jenkins isn't another one of them.
Well, don't jinx us on that.
How can I unjinx it?
We'll just be presumptuous and say he's going to be there on opening night against the Rams.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
he's going to be starting.
I hope so. All right, I wanted to talk about the running backs because, first of all, David Montgomery, holy moly, he looks good. Out of the, I would say about 10 carries I saw him have, there was only one for negative yards. Everything else, he was getting past the line of scrimmage. He was seeing holes. He was making great cuts. And again, there was no, a hitting or anything like that, but you can still tell by the athletic prowess that he was showing. And he was just seeing things so well. I remember last season, like after game 4 or 5, he said at a press conference, there's things I can do better. I think it was Mark Potash that asked him, what are those things you can do better? He goes, sometimes I see a sliver of a hole and I decide to bounce it outside when I should just go hit that sliver of a hole. That's what he's doing. That's what he did at the last half of season after the bye, and that's what I saw today. He was just looked so fucking good. This team needs to put together an offensive line that is capable of rushing the ball 30 times a game. And Matt Nagy talking about, Montgomery will get his 20 rushes a game if we have a lead in the fourth quarter. Fuck you, Matt Nagy. He needs to have 20 carries by halftime. Not because you got a lead and you're nursing it. You don't have a passing offensive line now. You don't have those guys. And so poor Andy Dalton, poor Justin Fields, even poor Nick Foles, especially Nick Foles. There was one play that I put up on Twitter where he's rolling to his right, Dan, and I'm telling you, I could roll out faster than Nick Foles. It was pathetic how old and immobile he looks. But, man, back to Montgomery, you got to love this guy. Do you have high expectations for him?
Yeah, I mean, how could you not? I mean, his 2020, I didn't know what to think of him after 2019. I mean, not to say that I'd given up on him by any stretch, and I didn't think he was a bust, but you kind of thought, okay, maybe he's a third-round pick for a reason. But after 2020, you thought, man, this guy, maybe he's a stud. Maybe he's the guy that I wanted Jordan Howard to be.
I think he is going to be a stud. He has said things to kind of give an indication that feels he's ready to get into that star level. And I'm there, man. I am there. I hope this team.
You have to pay him soon too.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
this is year 3.
Yeah. That's the troublesome thing about running backs, paying them a lot of money because, these guys, their longevity in today's NFL, it is what it is. And you can usually get value at that position. Now, Damian Williams, who is probably number 2 right now in the depth chart at running back, he looked good too. He looked good. And I told Danny Shim, and I'll ask you this question. Do you think that Damian Williams, backup running back for the Chicago Bears, will have more receptions than wide receiver Anthony Miller of the Houston Texans? What do you think if you had to bet a nickel on that?
Yes.
I said the same thing, and Danny was like, well, it depends. If Deshaun Watson is quarterbacking, then no, Anthony Miller. I go, remember, Miller's the 4th string wide receiver down there. And he goes, I don't care. I don't care. I still believe in Anthony Miller. I hope he has a great year because Danny really loved the kid coming out of college and was so happy. We were having a live draft show, and he was so happy when the Bears moved up to draft him.
So he's rooting for Anthony Miller just to make himself look right.
Well, yeah, I mean, of course. But he makes a good point about I think every offensive coordinator that has been with the Bears since Matt Nagy first came to the team has been fired or let go or moved on, with the exception of the wide receivers coach, Mike Furry. And maybe the whole problem with Miller and Wims and Riley Ridley, who did not look very good today, maybe maybe it's Furry that's the problem. There were a couple of times where Danny was in my ear saying Furry Furry told him to go outside, and then one of the other coaches told him go inside. Furry's fucking this up and blah blah blah. And so maybe Mike Furry is part of the problem, and maybe the problem with why the wide receivers are not performing as well as we'd like to see them. I don't know. Matt Nagy's
that furries, what they call those guys that dress up as animals when they fuck people.
Dude, I was doing some research on a screenplay that I was writing, and so I bought this it's like a dictionary of fetishes, right? And so I'm scrolling through it, and then I see that furry thing, and it had drawings of people wearing furry outfits having sex with it. I love it. I said, this is priceless. Can you imagine?
If you pay attention at the end of The Shining, when Shelley Duvall is wandering around the Overlook, when Jack is chasing Danny and about to go through the maze, and Shelley Duvall is like seeing all the ghosts and shit, there's a quick glimpse of like someone dressed up as a furry that's sucking a guy's dick. I think it's another guy that's performing too. Yeah, in the hotel, like it's right when the guy he's like, lovely party, right? And is like got the blood on his head. Yeah. But she sees a guy dressed as a furry in The Shining.
Yeah, that's right. Now, have you ever partaked in furry fetish?
No, I would feel absolutely ridiculous.
But what if you had a lovely girl saying, please put on this outfit?
No, I couldn't do it with a straight face. I just couldn't.
Please, Dan, please.
I couldn't do that. The only way I would even consider it is if it somehow led to the Bears winning a big game. Then I could be like Deshaun Watson and asking the girl to massage the inside of my asshole if it meant we were going to win the game.
Did you guys hear this, people in the chat room? Deshaun Watson, and one of the legal complaints against them, the masseuse says that Deshaun Watson asked the masseuse, can you please rub the inside of my anus because I got hurt there?
I'm not going to call Deshaun perverted, but it's starting to feel that way a little bit. Just a little bit.
What? How embarrassing is that? Even if it's true that this guy's proclivities are being announced there in legal documents, so that the media is now shouting out to everyone. It's like, how can this guy, walk into a locker room and his teammates not look at him and snicker at what the fuck is going on? Jesus Christ.
Well, yeah, this guy loves butthole pleasures.
Yeah, he does indeed. I'm looking at my running back list. Okay, Danny Shimon and I are having a big argument. He says no on Ryan Nall. Ryan Nall should not make this roster. I say absolutely yes. This guy still, for a big guy, has breakaway speed. I think he has improved his blocking, and very importantly, something that a lot of us overlook, his play on special teams is really, really good. Ryan Nall needs to be one of the running backs. And I do believe if we had a coach that had an appreciation for running the ball, that Ryan Nall could come in. I hope that in one of the preseason games, Ryan Nall gets 10 carries, because I bet you he will break one of them, just like he's done in other preseason games. The guy is good, and he's an excellent special teams player. Danny just doesn't feel like he's a running back. He feels like he's a fullback. And I'm like, well, who cares? I don't care. And he says, well, if you had to choose J.P. Holtz or Ryan Nall, I'm like, give me Ryan Nall. I'm sorry.
Isn't Holtz technically a tight end?
Yes, he is, but he plays that fullback position.
Yeah, he's an H-back essentially. Right. But yeah, I don't know. So we got the guy from Kansas City, right? And you got David Montgomery.
Right. Damian Williams, Montgomery, Nall. Go ahead. And
you're probably going to get Cohen early or to middle of the season, as It doesn't look like he's going to, unless something miraculous happens. He's on the PUP list, and he's probably not going to be himself this first year.
Correct.
So I would think he's not going to get a lot of carries. And who else we got running out?
Khalil Herbert, the rookie who
right. The guy. Yeah. So
he's going to make the team just on kickoff returns.
Yeah. So I mean, Nall's probably going to make it then.
You know who else looked good? CJ Marable. He's a 5'10", 199-pound rookie out of Coastal Carolina. And he first caught my eye on the drills where the running backs had to block linebackers coming in. And I'm like, wow, this little kid can block. And Danny, of course, knows everything. Yeah, he's from Coastal Carolina. All they do is throw the ball there. So he probably had a lot of blocking assignments at Coastal Carolina. I go, oh, shit, Danny, thanks. He looked good on those drills. And there were a couple of times where he caught my eye running with the football. And then there's Artavius Pierce, who is definitely on the bubble. I mean, it kind of comes down to Artavius Pierce kind of in Ryan Nall kind of a battle. Pierce might be one of those guys that is going to be dropped, and then once he clears waivers, he'll be in the practice squad. But Artavius Pierce is a guy who deserves, to stick around in some capacity, probably the practice squad. So we'll see.
He had a playoff carry, if I recall correctly.
I think you are absolutely right. Eduardo Miguel says Ryan Nall is the Jesper Horsted of the running backs.
I'm more on that side too. I know Nall appeared on the Barroom Network, and he scored a touchdown last season against the Panthers. I don't want to sound that like I'm one of the guys that thinks just because he's white or something he can't be a good player as a running back. But I don't know. I haven't been overly impressed when he's come into the game. I mean, I know he's had good preseason games, but it's a difference when he's playing in those preseason games. It's late and he's playing against the guys on the team that aren't going to make it. Mm-hmm. Versus whenever he comes in a regular season game, he's far less effective.
Mm-hmm. You're absolutely right. And that was one of the things that, had me a little bit not troubled, but disappointed in Justin Fields today. He was facing the number twos on defense, and now, of course, he had the number twos on offense. But I wish he would have, carved up the defense a little more. He's just holding on to the ball, and as Danny told me, he's still learning how to process. That was Mitchell Trubisky's number one fault as a quarterback. All of the processing that goes on. He's got a brand new playbook. He's got to remember the play calls, which is something that Fields himself said in the press conference earlier this week, that's been his biggest challenge as a quarterback, NFL quarterback, is remembering the plays, and he records them and he says them out loud to himself when he's at home and so forth. But if you're starting off a play, with that kind of indecisiveness of, did I get the call right in the huddle? Did I say it confidently enough for my players and so forth? And then you're going up to the line of scrimmage. That's still in the back of your head when you're still supposed to be looking over the defense and making adjustments and figuring out, this guy's going to run in between the safety and the corner and blah, blah, blah. That's why it takes a little time. And so Danny did a great job of alleviating my anxiety, but I'm still, I want to see more. I want to see more. Somebody in the chat room says, I can't wait till Saturday, the first preseason game. I'm with you, bro. I'm with you. I just don't want to be disappointed. How many preseason games, Dan, have we watched in our lifetimes where we were like, oh, shit? No, not
yeah, you can always just hope that it's the preseason. Like, you remember that time in 2014 when Tressman's preseason Bears went up and got rolled in Seattle, like 31-3.
Oh, yes.
And it was the third preseason game, and we were just like praying almost that, it's just the preseason. But some of those times when you're horrible in the preseason, it translates. But ironically, the 85 Bears were horrible in the preseason. So
everybody loves to bring that up. Yeah, they were like 0-4, I believe, in the preseason that season. But, that was a long time ago.
It was.
We need to let that go.
I wanted to. I wish I remembered who did the tweet. It's really fucked up. But when you brought up Trubisky for a split second, it made me think of it. It was like someone, again, this is being facetious and just being a dick, but someone said that, like, they were talking about, the Madden game. Mm-hmm. So they were saying Josh Allen's rating was a 91 And then he was spotted having a conversation on the sidelines with Trubisky and appeared to be getting advice. And immediately Madden lowered his rating from 91 to 88 after Trubisky gave him advice. I was like, oh, fuck.
Well, Danny and I were having a talk about Trubisky. Yesterday I put up a tweet where on ESPN's NFL Live, Dan Orlovsky had a stat, and the topic wasn't Mitchell Trubisky at all. It was Tua Tagovailoa and his inability to connect on deep passes where the ball is in the air for at least 25 yards. Well, the worst quarterback in that stat was Mitchell Trubisky. So I put it up. And I said, this is a damning stat for all of Trubisky's backers because this was his problem, unable to compete long passes because you couldn't. So all of a sudden people come up out of the woodwork and saying, why don't you let it go? He's gone. You got your wish. He's gone. I'm like, fuck, how do you want him gone? I wanted him to play better. It was all Nagy's fault. It was the receivers. It was that Javon Wims. He would have had 2 long passes if Javon Wims didn't drop that pass. It's like, oh my gosh, it was just fucking a stat that I put up. That's odd. Why am I being attacked? Trubisky still has his levers here in Chicago, starting with Mike North and on and on and on, man.
I considered myself, a Trubisky guy, but now I'm whoever the fuck we've got now, whether that's Andy Dalton or Fields or Foles. Let's just go win now.
Yeah, but you feel like I do, right, Dan? That I hope that if Trubisky gets his shot in Buffalo, that he shines, that he plays well.
Oh, I do too.
Right?
Yeah, absolutely. It's just like this is to me a very similar comparison because he was also a first-round pick. By the time Jim Harbaugh left the Bears, I thought, I wanted him to be good, but this guy just doesn't have it. I mean, he lost the playoff game for us in 91 with the pick. We're trailing 17-13. He throws a stupid interception to lose the game. Mm-hmm. He has a terrible 93 where he only throws 7 touchdown passes. And I think, I wanted him to succeed, but he just wasn't the fucking guy. And then in less than 2 years after we cut him, he's like two yards away from, or not 2 yards, but 2 inches away from leading the Colts to the Super Bowl because he loses on a Hail Mary in Pittsburgh where the guy literally almost caught it and would have sent the Colts to the Super Bowl. So he led them to two playoff victories on the road. And I was wishing I wanted Harbaugh to get to the Super Bowl, despite the fact, again, with the Bears, he was a bit of a disappointment.
Yeah. I think that Ditka ruined Harbaugh, don't you?
I don't know. I mean, like I said, Jim had that great 1995 with Ted Marchibroda as his coach in Indianapolis. He just had that really just awful year with Wani in 93. I mean, just awful. But, Harbaugh, 91, Ditka was letting Harbaugh throw the ball. If you look back at the 91 Bears, I bet you Harbaugh threw more in 91 than like any other quarterback did in the entire run that Ditka was here, like 2 times more. And he was slinging the rock a lot because Neil Anderson and Brad Muster were both hurt a lot that year. And then 92, they just kind of like everything fell apart. So I don't want to blame Ditka on that at all.
I just feel like the way he treated Jim Harbaugh, like the famous interception.
But that was in 92 when things were falling apart, though.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that was Jim's fault. But everyone says that it was the right audible, that once again, it was Neil Anderson not paying attention. The guy, I loved Neil Anderson at the time. Like, I absolutely adored Neil Anderson as a kid. Mm-hmm. But when I go back and watch these games, he brags, like he'll be like, yeah, I haven't even touched a football since last January. Like and you wonder why he always had a pulled hamstring, because the guy didn't work out in the offseason. He was the complete antithesis of Walter Payton. Mm-hmm. It's like Walter worked out and worked out and worked out and worked out. Like there's the first game, but in 82 when they have the big strike, mm-hmm. and there's only 9 games that season, and they missed like a month and a half, and that was McMahon's first start. Was the first game back after the strike. And after the game, Johnny Morris was talking to Walter, and Walter was like, I feel better now than I did in week 1. Cause he's like, all I did during the break was work out.
Uh-huh.
He's like, I'm in better shape now. Plus, I haven't gotten hit. He said, I wasn't tired at all on the field. So you would never get that from Neil Anderson, is what I'm saying, unfortunately. Yeah. And he didn't hear the audible call, or maybe that whole play in Minnesota is redone too.
Yeah. Neil was an outstanding football player, but there were a couple of defects with his play, and that was definitely one of them. I remember Ditka really getting on him because there were a number of times where he, and I think this was because his body was starting to betray him, that he would rush towards the line of scrimmage with his head down and not looking up to where the hole was. And Ditka would say this publicly. Ditka was not at all afraid of shaming his players publicly.
Oh, he called out everybody.
Oh my gosh, his son does. A lot of activity in the chat room. I got one here for you. Do you agree with Bruce, Ali, Walter, Jordan? No, was it him that said this? Somebody says Tomzak was better than Harbaugh. Do you agree? Oh, it was Mule Skinner. Do you agree with that?
Not overall in terms of who had the better, you know what I mean? Like who had more success, then maybe that's a different question. But Jim Harbaugh is a first-round pick for a reason, and Mike Tomzak was undrafted for a reason. Mm-hmm. So I think overall, like Harbaugh is a better quarterback. And again, ironically, it would be Tomzak Steelers that would keep Harbaugh out of the Super Bowl in the AFC Championship game. But of course, Neil O'Donnell was playing. The short answer to that is no. I guess Harbaugh was a better player, but with Chicago, Tomzak probably had more success because at least the Fog Bowl game, Tomzak started that, even though he didn't finish, and he won the playoff game against the Saints in 1990. Mm-hmm. Conversely, Harbaugh was 0-1 in the playoffs with the Bears as the starter. Against the Cowboys.
Stephen Me says Tomzak had the better team and did nothing with it. So.
I think to me, this isn't a fair comparison, but I'll throw it out there anyway. Tomzak's sort of like Kyle Orton, and Harbaugh's more like Cutler, I guess, in the sense that one is a first round pick and the other guy is doing the dirty work and isn't that good, but he's maybe exceeding expectations.
Yeah.
And again, I wasn't an Orton guy. And at the time, back in the day, I didn't like Tomzak either. But I didn't know it. So, see, again, just being a kid, I would just watch the games. It's not like I was following the coverage beyond like NFL primetime.
Sure.
So I thought that like he was McMahon's adversary as a kid. Like I didn't want 18 in there at all. I wanted number 9. So I don't care if Tomzak has to be killed. Like I want McMahon playing. Like, but now looking back on it and seeing everything again in the eyes of man, they were actually really close friends.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, and they hated Harbaugh. Both of them hated Jim Harbaugh. Both of them.
Yeah. I hate Jim Harbaugh as a coach, not as a player. I think he's way overrated. By the way, Mule Skinner says Orton is a fair comparison. I got a little trivia for you here. Dan Aguirre. This is just to show off your recall and how well you are at remembering things. Back to that 1991 team where Jim Harbaugh was the quarterback and led the Chicago Bears to an 11-5 record. He threw 15 touchdown passes, 16 interceptions. His backup, who played in 4 games, mostly as a primary, was
Peter Tom Willis.
There you go. I told you this guy is unbelievable.
Mike Tomzak was in Green Bay that year. He was Plan B and got shipped to the Packers. Harbaugh beat Mike Tomzak. If you pull up the stats, I think it's week 15 when Green Bay came to Chicago that year. It was Tomzak versus Harbaugh, and Tomzak starting for the Packers.
This motherfucker's unbelievable.
Well, pull up that totally box score if you got it in front of you.
You're totally right. 27-13, Chicago Bears over the Green Bay Packers. The Bears moved to a 10-4 record. The Packers dropped to 3-11. The stats for the game: Mike Tomzak, 22 out of 39, 215 yards passing, a touchdown, and interception, was sacked times. He rushed the ball 2 times for 6 yards. He was the winning quarterback, or Tomzak was the losing quarterback, and Jim Harbaugh, the 16 for 25, 209 yards passing, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception, sacked twice. Man, you remember that game like you were just saw it on DVD yesterday, right?
Yeah, the thing I remember about it the most, it was at the end of the year, and the grass was so fucked up at Soldier Field. They were like painting dirt. to try to make it green. Like the field was just fucking ruined, man. It looked like there was no grass on the field whatsoever. That's what I remember about it more than anything. But
another trivia. Hold that thought. Write it down.
Yeah.
Another trivia question. This is going to be a tough one. The Bears had 3 sacks in that game. And can you name 2 of the 3 guys who got sacks in that game?
If I get this right, it'll just be a guess. I mean, I can venture a guess, but
Sure.
it won't be. I would be lucky if I got it right.
Well,
but I'll guess Richard Dent, Mongo McMichael,
and
Ron Cox.
No, you got one right, McMichael, and then Trace Armstrong and Tim Ryan of all people.
He ended up being a broadcaster. I wasn't a fan of his. By then.
That's not the real saying Tim Ryan, is it?
That's not the one that was the play-by-play guy, but
Okay.
yeah.
Oh wow! Look at that.
He was a color announcer on Fox in the early 2000s. The other Tim Ryan.
Interesting. Wow, you got a great memory, man.
Well, what I was going to say
Sure.
real quick before we get back to the current day Bears,
Okay.
as I mentioned this when Greg Braggs had me on Braggs in the Stands that one night, and I got to talk, 5, 6, 7 minutes with Tom Waddle. And this is what I said to Waddle. I wanted to get his honest assessment, but Waddle's like, I guess, so far away from his playing days that, I mean, I think maybe if I had gotten a chance somehow to ask Tom this in 1996, the answer would have been different, I believe.
Okay.
But he's so far away that I guess it's just like a different lifetime ago for him now. But I told him, I said, you remember when Parkey missed the field goal? Everybody in Chicago, including me and including you, because he felt this way on the radio, thought that the 18 Bears could have been something special and that maybe that kick cost us a Super Bowl. But I said, conversely, and I said, just please humor me for a second. That 91 team, I was like, if Jim Harbaugh doesn't throw that pick and you all come back to beat Dallas in the game I was talking to, in the game, you can't even remember the second half because you took such a fucking beating, and you don't even remember the ambulance ride with your wife after the game, which is just devastating in its own way. And he caught a touchdown that he doesn't remember because he was concussed. But I was like, just humor me. I was like, I want to make the case for you because I always thought, and this is the way I told one, I was like, so if you get by Dallas, just if you're going to go to Detroit the next week, I know Eric Kramer is going to light Dallas up, but we've already played those motherfuckers twice. And we lost to them on Thanksgiving Day. So we got a game plan, and we had for whatever reason, every now and again, Barry would explode, but the Bears could play him pretty tight. And the way they beat Dallas was all Eric Kramer. If you look back in that game, basically going play action. I don't think he's going to have that kind of game against our defense. I just don't. I'm not saying the Lions don't win, but I told him, I think the Bears find a way to get past him. And then you go to the NFC Championship game, you're against Washington, but the reason you lost to Washington in week 6 is because you couldn't stop Charles Mann. He had like 3 or 4 sacks. But again, the benefit of already playing them, having a tape, you button that up on the coverage. Maybe you upset Washington. And then what do you got? You got Buffalo in the Super Bowl, a team you've already played earlier that year that you lost 35-22, but it was like 13-all at the half. Or something like that. It was really close to the half, and then things got away at the very end of in the second half. So I was like, but you've played all these teams before. So I always thought if Jim doesn't get picked against Dallas, the 91 team was the team that was going to go to the Super Bowl. What do you think about that, Tom Waddle? And he was just like, well, you paint. He's like, when I listen to your argument, it makes so much sense. He's like, I don't know, man. I don't know. It's this kind of, he smiled, but he's just, he didn't give it any more credence. But I always thought the 91 team could throw a lot more, could run if our guys weren't hurt, because Muster and Anderson both were hurt so much that year.
They were.
God, and the line was still there, even though they were getting older. The div was still there, even though it was getting older. But it just felt like they had a shot if he doesn't get picked against Dallas at the end. But that's what happened. And the worst part is when you look back at that game, you lose that wild card game, it wasn't even to Aikman. It was to Steve Berline.
Oh my goodness. I'm looking at the stats right now. Steve Berline, 9 of 18, 180 yards, 1 touchdown, no interceptions. His longest pass was 45 yards. So he had 180 yards. And then if you take away that 145, he had 135 yards passing. And the time of possession, the Bears had the ball for 37 minutes and 30 seconds. The Cowboys 22 minutes and 30 seconds. That's fucking unbelievable.
And then we still lose that fucking game.
Unbelievable.
Cowboys, and if you can look up the stats since you have it, because this is all off of my top of my head.
Yeah,
it seems like we were led that day in rushing by Darren Lewis, not even Neil Anderson.
You are absolutely right. Darren Lewis, the little guy, he was a good little player. 9 attempts, 65 yards rushing. 11 was his longest. He also caught 2 passes for 18 yards. So he had 65 yards rushing. Neil Anderson had 34 yards rushing on 4 more attempts. So he had 13 carries, 34 yards. At 15 was his longest, and he caught 3 passes for 5 yards.
And if you look back at whether it's the Fog Bowl, the 88 NFC Championship game, the 90 playoff loss to the Giants, or even the one where they beat the Saints, Neil Anderson never had a playoff game that was like, wow. It was always wow the other way. Neil Anderson's postseason games were always under 100 yards, all of them.
That's interesting, yeah. Muster had 5 carries, 25 yards rushing.
He left the game, I think. It seems like he got hurt and had to leave.
Well, it's funny that you say that because I just posted Mule saying that Muster was a base until he hurt his back. Yeah, injury problems with Brad Muster were an issue. And then from a receiving standpoint, Tommy Waddle, 9 catches, 104 yards, and that touchdown in that game. Man, oh, man.
He took a pounding.
I got to watch this game again. Ditko's coach, Jimmy Johnson, December 29th at Soldier Field.
Yeah, you know what's if you watch the pregame, maybe I'll bring you a copy of that in Cleveland if you want.
Yeah.
I've got CBS's pregame with Greg Gumbel.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, and Chicago, I can't remember if it was the Tribune or the Sun-Times, someone had written on the cover of the paper that essentially, I don't remember the headline, but this is like the last hurrah for Ditka's teams. And man, did that prove to be true.
Yeah.
And of course, when they asked Ditka about it before the game, they were there like 2 hours before, and he smiled and was like, well, do you believe what you read in the papers? He's like, the whole time I've been here, the papers had something bad to say about me. He's like, so I don't think this is necessarily the end. He's like, but I don't care. Today, my goal is to beat Dallas, but it was fun. And it actually, they traveled, they had someone filming the Bears that whole week. Okay. Like their practices and stuff. And like you saw Neil Anderson trying to get his hamstring worked out with the massage, with the Deshaun Watson-esque massage, and had all the old veterans talking about what the game meant to them. And then of course they just come out and they lose again, man.
Unbelievable. I'm trying I just found it here. The Cowboys got off to a first quarter lead of 10-0. It was a Ken Willis 27-yard field goal on their first possession. And then on their second possession, they matriculated the ball downfield, and Emmitt Smith ended up with a 1-yard rush to make it a 10-0 game. The Bears made it 10-3, then 10-6 on 2 Kevin Butler's field goals. And then Jay Novacek catches that pass from Steve Berline to make it a 17-6 game. And by the time Waddle caught his touchdown pass late in the game, it was 17-13, and that was.
But they had one more shot. They had the ball 17-13, and Harbaugh got picked around midfield. So they had one more shot. Like, you're down 4. You've got to score a touchdown, but it's doable. There's about 2 minutes to go, and he gets picked off at midfield.
Jeez.
And you had some weapons, even though Waddle's gone. You still had Dennis Gentry out there, who's not as good as he was a few years before, but still could get past somebody deep. And so you had some hope. Maybe you hit a home run with, like I said, a Gentry type, or Wendell Davis was okay. I mean, there was hope. And he got picked off, and it was a terrible throw too. It was one of those throws. If Cutler would have done it, everyone would have just been like, fuck this guy. And Harbaugh did it, and it's just kind of a footnote that no one remembers.
Unbelievable. Well, speaking about remembering, Zach Sullivan says, memory-wise, I feel like Slowpoke Rodriguez to Dan's Speedy Gonzalez. I just don't currently have any hiccups. Yeah, it is amazing your recall on these games, Dan. I'm applause for you.
Well, like Mike North says, it's been 30 years, Dan. Get the fuck over it.
But no, I think that's a good thing that you remember these games. You know, like when you read a book, do you retain the book like you do these football games?
Keep in mind, I only read fiction typically, or I'm sorry, nonfiction. I read nonfiction.
Right.
I'll remember the gist of it, but I'm a slow reader.
Okay.
Because I'll end up reading the same page sometimes 2 or 3 times to absorb the full effect.
Yeah, me too.
You know, so a lot of times it'll take me a while to read the book, but I think I'm pretty good about remembering the gist of it, but not everything or something. You know, I think I remember the games much better than I would a book.
So what are you better at remembering? A book that you've read or some pussy that you ate?
Maybe the latter, I guess. The bear stuff, man, it's so weird though. I mean, maybe this is just life in general, but I can remember who I was with when I watched a game. I specifically like Super Bowls or something. If you just randomly say, you know, who did you watch Super Bowl 24 with? I can tell you. Like, I remember everything about them, like where I was, who I was with, and usually with the Bears games too.
Yeah.
I mean, even the regular season, like, oh, what about the day Donovan McNabb beat us with the Redskins and Jay got picked off 4 times? Like, I remember who I was with in those kind of situations, although I was alone that day, but thankfully. But you remember the 4 picks he kept throwing to the same guy? What was his name again out there in the corner?
Yeah. Oh shit.
He kept challenging the same guy and kept getting picked off every fucking time.
He works for the NFL Network now. Come on, guys in the chat room, come to the rescue. Redskins cornerback, 4 interceptions against Cuddy.
In 2010, yeah.
In 2010. But go ahead anyway.
Hey, I can usually remember who I was with and everything whenever I watch a game or the circumstances around it. And even if it was 30 years ago, it still seems so vivid to me, you know, in a lot of ways. You know, I don't know. I don't have any. Now, I may forget certain plays or sequences in the game, of course. Like, I didn't remember who had those sacks, but I remember the game, you know, vividly.
Yeah.
Beyond that, because I remember, like I said, as a kid, I did not like Tomzak, and I was like, we got to kill Tomzak this week. You know, I just fuck Mike Tomzak. He's a traitor. What's he doing in Green Bay?
D'Angelo Hall, by the way.
Yeah, D'Angelo Hall. I'm surprised that so many other people don't give a shit about the older games, because a lot of times I'll talk to other Bears fans, and not only do they not really remember them, they don't even care to revisit them either.
Yeah. No, when I had people from the bar room over a couple of weekends ago in the man cave here, I had your DVDs playing on the tube. And so it was, you know, the Bears versus the Cardinals. It was the Bears versus the Lions on Thanksgiving Day. It was 3 others. I got the Carousel DVD player down here. And so I love going back and watching that stuff. There's just something about this Chicago Bears team, the uniform. I love it. And so anytime I see those guys, particularly in their all whites, like some of those old games are, and that offensive line kneels down and gets into that 3-point stance, and the quarterback gets under center, and Gale Sayers or Walter Payton is running with the ball. To me, it's like watching a classic old movie, a beautiful woman. I just love it. There's something so beautiful about the Bears. You know, I can't imagine anyone looking at the Green Bay Packers with their ugly fucking uniforms and their stupid hayseed attitude towards stuff. But, you know, they've won more than the Bears in recent memory. So, you know, I guess that has a lot to do with it. But to me, it's just anyone who isn't a Chicago Bears fan, I feel like shaking them saying, how can you not love the way this team looks? And then you start thinking about management and the mom and pop shop that they're running and so forth. And so I can understand it. But I love the Chicago Bears. And thank you for those DVDs. They're just opening up so many fucking memories of watching these games. And I'm with you. Sometimes I remember who I've watched the game with a little bit more than the game itself, because of the experience and the laughs and the conversations and so forth. Now, as I've gotten older, I prefer to watch games by myself, because I like to take notes and I don't want to be interrupted, and I'm preparing for the post-game show and so forth. Are you that way, Dan? If you had a choice to watch a big game, like let's say a late season game, you win and you're into the playoffs, would you prefer to watch it on your own, or would you prefer to watch it with company?
When I was married, I always loved it when Marissa would watch the game with me, because she honestly never really did anything to like distract me from it, other than, ask questions that, your spouse would ask of you, but something here or there at the house, or do you want some food or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
but she just kind of blended in. And I always felt like it was a good moment for us. Now, she wasn't always paying attention. She might be on her phone, but she didn't distract me, but like you get a bunch of guys over, and like you said, you end up talking about whatever the fuck you're talking about, and then you're missing plays. And that's the same reason I don't like to drink when I watch. I don't want to be distracted. I don't want to be inebriated. I don't want to miss anything.
Right.
So when it comes to guys, I typically would rather watch it alone. Whereas when I was married, like I said, she never really distracted me. Now, so if we were fighting or something, I would almost rather her die than be in the room with me while I'm watching. But because it always felt like if we were fighting, the Bears were always losing. And she would always, if we were fighting, it would be like during the 3-13 2016 season, where she'd be like, why are you even watching this shit? How do you stick with this team? Why don't you switch teams? And like, that's not how it works. You don't just switch teams.
Yes. You don't get divorced.
Yeah, we'll get divorced before I switch this fucking team. But yeah, that's kind of the way I look at it. You get a bunch of guys in, and sometimes I just end up talking too much and not focusing on what's happening. And again, I can't watch the game in the sense that, or I could maybe, but I don't want to. I don't want to watch. One of the reasons I don't want to be and I'm not saying that I'm anywhere near this guy. I'm not, but like a Phil role who is so good at just breaking down the tape, and we all know that. But I don't want to have to watch it from a perspective of like a homework assignment. I want to watch it for entertainment.
Yes.
And not like, I don't want you to have to come to me after the first quarter and tell me what's going on with the left tackle. But like, dude, I'm just watching the game. I don't know. I didn't keep stats. I'll go read the paper after the game and listen to the podcast and try to make an interpretation of what happened afterwards. But during the game, I'm trying to be entertained.
Right. I got a question for you, but let me get this Zach comment up from the chat room. Zach says, no, Dan watched games while he was slamming ass.
The only one I can really think of, I've told you the story before, and I thought it was like good luck, was that game in Tampa Bay in 2001 when Marty Booker was catching all those touchdowns from Jim Miller at Tampa. And the whole time I was either getting blown or fucking. And I kept saying, we got to keep going because it's like good luck. And like the whole quarter, they had like 21 points in that third quarter that day. And I was either getting blown or fucking the whole time. So I take full credit for that quarter. But for the most part, no, I didn't even want to do that during the game.
I'm trying to remember what year the Chicago Bulls played the Portland Trailblazers. They went to the Western Conference Finals, and I don't think it was a Game 6, but it was an elimination or Game 7, but it was an elimination game for the Bulls, Game 6. It had to be like 1975 thereabouts, and so I was a huge Chicago sports fan. I would watch every fucking team, and the Bulls had a really good team with Jerry Sloan and Norm Van Leer and all those guys. And I had just was getting pussy for the first time in my life. And so I'm with this girl and we're fucking and fucking. And I'm like thinking to myself, man, the game is on. The game is on. And I wonder if the Bulls are going to win, and get to game 7. And they lost. And to this day, I really do believe that the Chicago Bulls were eliminated from that playoff series because I was too busy fucking and not watching the game.
Oh, man, I've got one on that too. But real quick, I should also point out, I was getting my first head when Conway threw his helmet against Washington in 1997. That's true. I lost my virginity in 95, but I didn't get my first blowjob until 97. And I was getting blown when Conway was mad about it was obvious pass interference, and he got mad through his helmet and got kicked out of the game. I was getting my first blowjob at that moment in time. So
you were getting head when Conway was losing his head, right?
Exactly. But speaking of head, like not blowjobs, but just hair. Man, my girlfriend, I had a girlfriend named Lakeisha, and we were together through the 05 season and the 06 season, and we broke up between the championship game and Super Bowl 41. And it's one of these deals, like my cousin, who's an addict now, was always really tanned and like looked cool with the shaved head, so he always was like keeping his hair real close, and it was one of those things, like she really pissed me off, and I was like, fuck it, man, just take my hair, fuck it. I want to change, man. Fuck her. And I was so mad because she had cheated and she lied or whatever. And so I let him buzz cut my hair, which is the last time I've done that. I used to do that when I played football, like to make it, cooler because in August.
Sure.
But it was the first time I had done that as a grown man, and I was 26 that year. And I got that haircut like 3 or 4 days before the game. And I always thought, man, we lost the fucking Super Bowl because I cut my hair like that. I was like, why didn't I do that on the Monday after the game?
It's true, man. That might have led to the defeat, Dan. Fuck you, man.
It's weird how things like that seem to happen. And maybe that's absolutely insane to even consider.
Yeah.
But it feels like little things like that disrupt the Bears' rhythm.
For sure. Indeed. All right, let's get back to some present day Bears talk. This defense at today's Family Fest was one of the bright spots of what I thought was a disappointing day. I mentioned the play of the inside linebackers, both Danny T and Roquan Smith looked good. But another guy who, a friend of the bar room, Joel Iyiegbuniwe, caught our attention. Danny kept pointing out to me, wow, Buniwe looks like he's faster, stronger. He's all over the field and so forth. And perhaps he is feeling that this is a make or break year for him because
it's got to be. They brought Christian Jones back to take his job.
Exactly. So I'm encouraged because I've seen, 2 years ago when I was at camp, I saw how hard Iyiegbuniwe was working to get back on the team. We've talked to him. He's a super nice guy and so forth. His play as a linebacker has been disappointing. Now, his play as a special teamers has been good, which is probably why he has stuck with this team. But we need him to, in those moments where he's going to get some snaps at the inside linebacker position, he needs to play better. Another guy who looked there were a couple of plays that it looked like he may have missed an assignment or something like that. But from a physical standpoint, Josh Woods, holy shit, man. This guy, like Danny pointed out to me, he now has an NFL body. If you remember, Josh Woods was a safety in college.
Carmen DeFalco just asked me to ask you, who is Josh Woods? I'm sorry, go ahead.
And so Danny pointed out that his body looks the result of 4 years of NFL training and weightlifting and so forth. He looks rock solid. And hopefully these two guys at the inside linebacker position are going to provide the kind of depth that we need there. And then, as you said, Christian Jones is back, who, by the way, I didn't notice on the field today, so I'm not sure what.
Yeah, he is out. So real quick, I wanted to mention that Josh Woods also is hurt. Josh Woods hurt his thigh.
Today,
James Daniels hurt his thigh. Artie Burns hurt his quad, and Tayshaun Gibson hurt his groin. But where did I see Jones? Is he on the I think he's on the COVID list. Yeah, it's Eddie Goldman, Cheese, Christian Jones, Elijah Wilkinson, and long snapper Patrick Scales are all on the COVID reserve list.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm with you. By the way, I want to read this from Steven. I think it's harder for younger fan to stick with the Bears when they've never seen them be great or have a cool quarterback that dominates and you can be proud of. He goes on to say, I'm old enough to remember when we were the monsters of the Midway and the Patriots, Packers, Bucks were dumpster fires. Totally right. This is a critical time for the Chicago Bears because if they continue to flounder, you need to have winning teams in order to keep the generation of fans going. Today was Family Fest. It wasn't a kid there who was looking at the field and saying, oh, here's this guy, oh, here's that guy. They were all like totally bored, and you could tell the mom and dad dragged them there and stuff like that. This team needs some success to get the city fired up, to get casual fans to be excited fans to get.
Well, look at it a different way. Again, who was it that you were just referencing in the bar room, the chat room there?
Stephen Me.
His point is so true. Again, why did a kid in West Virginia, like the Bears? Because of Jim McMahon. So what do we have now? If you don't live in Chicago or nearby, Illinois or somewhere where you're going to get them on TV and not have to seek them out or pay extra, the only player in theory that's going to make a young kid be like, man, I like the Bears, if he's not from Illinois, is going to be Fields. Like, that's the marketable guy that we have right now. So, but like other than that, who do the Bears have? I know we like Allen Robinson, for example, but who's going to make a kid on the East Coast,
right,
or the West Coast, or someone like in Texas or somewhere like the Bears,
right,
other than Justin Fields? I don't think the Bears really have anybody.
Well, Roquan Smith could change that this year. Khalil Mack came to Chicago with that reputation, but
yeah, he definitely did. When the Bears got him, he was a difference maker.
Right.
But and maybe he had a really good quote the other day. You know what? In terms of me being negative toward Mack, I want to mention his quote because I don't give him enough praise on here, but I love the quote. He says, Charles Woodson told me a long time ago, he was like, you cannot waste times.
Yep.
You know, this shit is very valuable. I understand that now. I've only been to the playoffs 3 times so far, and I've lost in the first round every one of them. Time is the essence, end quote.
Yeah, that was a beautiful, beautiful quote. And, you know, he looked pretty good in practice today, but again, he was going up against Larry Barroom. And I think Larry Barroom has a future in the NFL. As Eric Galko said, he'll probably be a really good swing tackle. But Larry Barroom at left tackle, that's not going to happen, man. He's not going to be a starter at left tackle. So when Khalil Mack just grabbed him by the shoulders and pushed him to the right and then went inside and got to the quarterback unimpeded, you know, that's great for Khalil. But it again just worried the hell out of me that Larry Barroom might have to start at left tackle at some point this season. That just shouldn't be. That just should not be. Jeez. By the way, Larry, if you're listening, you said you were going to come on to the Dan and Aldo Bear Your Soul show. So come on, brother. I'm going to reach out to you. We want you here. Well, he's not going to come on during the preseason, but maybe during the season. We'll see.
I wish you could get Akeem Hicks back because, again, that was my first show listening in the bar room when you all had Kyle Long and Akeem Hicks together. And it was so fun. I'll never forget thinking like, wow, this shit is for adults, man. Everything caters to children. Everything.
Yeah. Yep.
Well, you can't say this. You can't say that. And like, why? The FCC's not regulating us right now. And there's Akeem Hicks and Kyle Long just dropping F-bombs. I'm like, man, this is the greatest shit I've ever heard.
Yeah.
And yeah, so I was a fan from that moment on.
Yeah, that was one of my all-time favorite shows of 100 Proof when we had both Akeem Hicks and Kyle Long, and they were so kind because we were just getting started with our technical issues and stuff, and they were kind enough to stick around, and then they just let it fly. They were, you know, R-rated talk and a lot of laughs and stuff. Great show. All right, let's see. What else?
What about the corners? What do our corners look like?
Jalen Johnson Ooh, baby, glue. And he had, I think, maybe 2 interceptions, definitely one that happened right in front of me, but he may have had another one. Jalen Johnson looks like he's ready to start and be the number 1 cornerback. So
that's a relief.
Yes. Just stay healthy, baby. Please stay healthy.
Everybody keeps writing like Vendor, or like Kendall Vendor, like as like this next superstar. How did he look? Everyone's giving the guy a lot of fucking praise.
Mm-hmm. Kendall Vildor looked good. He had an interception that he unfortunately dropped on a deep pass to the left end zone. So, he's got to get those hands to work, but his coverage on the handful of plays that I zeroed in on him was excellent. So Kendall Vildor, I will not at all be surprised if he is starting opposite Jalen Johnson at the cornerback position. Desmond Trufant, it really didn't catch my eye at all today. I'm not even sure he was out in the field. So I'm sure he was, but I can't say that I saw him and that he stood out in any way. But those 2 guys, Jalen Johnson and Kendall Vildor, were 2 guys that I wanted to shout out. And the play of the safeties, Eddie Jackson and Gibson, they were solid. But, a lot of that just has to do with the fact that they were playing an offense that just still can't find their timing. But they were on receivers like glue for the most part. The defensive backs and linebackers, they were just doing a really good job. There's no doubt about it. As it is every fucking year with the Chicago Bears, the defense is ahead of the offense, and it's going to stay that way until the defense starts to deteriorate late in the season because of injuries and being out of the field too long. And so that's my report. The only other thing that I had to report that I can think of off the top of my head was Cairo Santos. Man, he's still making every kick. The only kick that I saw him miss was he was in the sideline from about 40 yards away, and he tried to hit that long angle, which is, not anything you would see in the game because he's out of bounds. But he just missed getting the kick through. But everything in all the drills, what they did on one drill with the special teams is they just had him kick from 20 yards out, 30 yards out, 40 yards out, 45 yards out, something like that, whatever the yardage was. And he hit all 4 for 4. And then they had a drill where the offense had to march downfield and trying to score a touchdown. And in typical Chicago Bears fashion, the drive fizzled out in the red zone. And Cairo came out and hit his field goal. And the backup kicker, what's this kid's name? He looked really good too. His name is Brian Johnson. 6'1", rookie out of Virginia.
That's the singer from AC/DC, Brian Johnson.
Right. Why did I know that? But he made all his kicks too. So it looks like
he shook you all night long at Soldier Field.
It looks like the kicking game is looking good. Do you have any other questions, or people in the chat room have any other questions, on what I might have seen or thoughts from today's practice?
What about our tight ends? With Jimmy Graham, Jesse James, I saw Komet was doing some long snapping. What did you see from the tight ends?
Cole Komet looked really, really good. Made a couple of really nice catches. He looks like he's ready to take that next step. And that's just not based on what I saw, but also from reports from camp, from the Chicago media. Cole Komet is looking good. So it was nice to see him kind of live up to those clippings that I have read over the last few days about him. Jimmy Graham, I did not notice at all today. And both Danny and I are encouraged by the play of that 6'7" tight end. By the way, is Don Burr still in the chat? Don Burr at 9:07, 5 minutes ago, he posted, he's the Detroit Lions fan who loves to come on to the bar room and talk shit about his Detroit teams. So, Don, what's your assessment on Jesse James, the tight end? Because I liked him in his first year with the Cowboys. I remember he caught like 7 or 8 touchdown passes. He was a red zone threat, and he had a decent practice today. He did a couple of good things. I wish I had tape so I can go back and see the blocking, because that's something that you overlook when you're seeing a game live. You're focused on these specialty players, the receivers and running backs and so forth. So a lot of the blocking, like from the tight end position, you kind of overlook. I would love to see how those guys blocked. But anyone who has seen Jesse James in the past, I think the big knock in Detroit was his blocking, in that he was kind of a one-dimensional tight end, kind of a red zone guy, but in between the 20s, he wasn't much of a player, and his blocking was so. So hopefully he's progressed and can be a contributor at that tight end position, because we could use it, man.
We should get the Lions guy on the air with us.
Don Burr, you want to come on? I would love to have Don.
Yeah, I mean, and not in the, like I said, I feel like the Bears and Lions have both for years been overlooked in comparison with Green Bay and Minnesota, and probably rightfully so, because both of us have had the least success in overall in the last 30 years or so, since the post Ditka run. So we're kind of cousins in defeat. Mm-hmm. So I don't want to talk any shit, but I would be interested to hear from another team's perspective what their thoughts are on the Bears.
Absolutely. That's one of the reasons why I love the Buffon 55 show. The premise of that show is they preview the upcoming game, and they have on a blogger, an NFL writer, or podcaster who covers the other team week to week. And so they speak with specialty, and then they share their thoughts on the Chicago Bears, which is always great to get that outsider's point of view. By the way, Oules, OULES 278 is chastising me because he says last week's episode wasn't on Spotify. That's a bummer, since I get up at 3 a.m. and I can't listen. Love the
and last week was our best show.
Yep, we love this show.
I really think so.
Yeah, and I promise I will get that episode up for you, because Oules, you've got to hear Brandy, who came on and shared her praise of Dan Aguirre's sex life. Dan, do you have an update at all about you and Brandy?
She's supposed to go to a concert with me on August 21st. So, we'll still get together and do a little sucking and fucking. I mean,
is there anything else that you want to share, Dan?
This past weekend, I was kind of like Cutler, like I had the great game the first time I was with her. Like I said, I fucked 3 times that night, and I was all world. I made the Pro Bowl, and I was like Doug Flutie against the fucking Hurricanes that night with the Hail Mary. I was in the zone, man. And then last week I came back to earth. Oh, I felt like I was like, Jay, you have this great game, and then the next week you come out and you throw 2 or 3 picks.
D'Angelo Hall picks you off 4 times.
Yeah, I was not happy with my appearance on.
Did she say anything? Did she say, what happened, Dan? Are you okay?
No, she said, you did okay. You don't be too hard on yourself. She was being real nice to me. Like, I probably didn't deserve that, but she still came. So that's, that matters, but Absolutely. Still, I know that I could play better. Let's just say that.
Did you?
I've failed in a lot of different ways.
I just couldn't get. I had a really bad week last week. Toward the end of the week after the Foo Fighters show, work was stressful at both jobs, and I had a lady that was blowing me up and calling me an asshole and shit because I didn't want to date her, and all this stuff was like going on Friday and Saturday, and like it put me in like a really bad mood. And like, as much as in theory you say like, oh yeah, you're gonna come over, let's fuck, like I wanted to, but in another regard I didn't want to, because I just wasn't in the mood. But I wanted to perform, though my head was in it, or my heart was in it, but my head wasn't in it, if that makes any sense.
Sure.
Or maybe it's the other way around. Either way, I just wasn't that good. I hope that I can redeem myself.
So, like, for me, there's been in my let's see, 5 decades of fucking. I've had maybe once or twice where I just couldn't get the things going really well, and so I just suck a lot of pussy. I'm always good at that. By the way, I got to share this story with you. When I was 19, 20 years old, somebody gave me a pass to the Consumer Electronics Show in Chicago. And so I'm walking around at McCormick Place for the Consumer Electronics Show, and I find myself in the porno section. Holy shit, there's porno girls all all over the place. And lo and behold, the biggest male porno star of that era was there. And when I say the biggest, I mean the biggest. This guy had a cock the size.
You mean John Holmes was there?
That is absolutely right. John Holmes, who they made movies about. And so this is the exchange that I hear him saying with a female porn star. I'm walking down the aisle. They've got their booth over here with John Holmes selling John Holmes videos. And then this woman selling her big tit video and so forth. And he's walking back to his booth. And I hear him say to her, I suck pussy like a lesbian. Just let me know. And I'm thinking to myself, why do you have to with a dick the size of the John Hancock building?
Yeah, man. That's the guy had Tommy Lee from Motley Crue's got a cock like that.
Yeah, I saw that Pamela Anderson video. Whoa.
I couldn't come to that if I wanted to, because every time you see Pamela, Tommy's like, you're so fucking beautiful, Pam. You're so fucking beautiful. Like, shut the fuck up, Tommy. Like, you're a phenomenal drummer and you've got this huge dick. Like, can you let his dick is like mine divided by 3, you know, like give me my time with Pam. Come on, man.
That is amazing. Yeah, Consumer Electronics Show, a big memory. John Holmes. I was gonna take the show a different place, but I forgot where I was gonna go.
Before you figure it out, I wanted to say one more thing, and it's not the current Bears, but I wanted to mention something. Mm-hmm. I told you yesterday that I was listening to that podcast with Adam Carolla from The Man Show, if you remember that, with Jimmy Kimmel.
Sure.
And it's from a few weeks ago, but I didn't know about it. Mm-hmm. And he had our guy Eric Kramer on, and they got a little into the most recent stuff, not the lawsuit thing, but his suicide attempt and things like that. But for the most part, they grew up together. Mm-hmm. So if anybody who's listened to us in the last couple months, and we were talking a lot about Eric Kramer, and hopefully we can get him on the show. It's a phenomenal listen, because he and they grew up together.
I didn't know that.
So yeah, he and Adam Carolla grew up together. So they're literally talking about their Pop Warner team. Mm-hmm. And like he was talking about Eric Kramer's dad, like being such a huge like impact on him. Mm-hmm. Because he was one of the coaches early on, and cool. And they talk about their high school run, and then Kramer is like, his story to the league is like, I didn't know it. Like I didn't know he was a replacement player, and the reason I bring this up on air is because I just got an email, mm-hmm. and he was one of the scabs in 1987 in the 3 games when the pros were. Well, not everybody, but a lot of them didn't cross the picket line.
Right.
And when the Bears had the quote unquote spare Bears, but Eric Kramer played 3 games in '87 with the Falcons. And I sent you the box score to one of those games, and I found the fucking game. I'm going to buy it, I think.
Nice.
Yeah. I found it. I can buy it for $15. Eric Kramer and the '87 Falcons. So again, that's why I want him on. I don't want to talk to him and like try to sensationalize all of his problems, but he says on every interview that he does that he remembers all of his games more so than anything else. Like the old stuff, was shooting himself did nothing to his long-term memory.
Wow.
That's what amazing. He says. He remembers all of these games. So I would just, as a huge fan of the guy, I really would wish that we could talk to him.
I'm going to work hard at getting him on the show, just listening to the two of you guys talk about those games. And I'll be behind the scenes and try to find some highlights to visualize some of the stuff. That will be a blast for me.
That would be great. And that Lions fan that we were just talking about,
Don Burr.
I don't know how old he is, but if he's at least my age, then he should have an affinity for Kramer as well.
Yeah, based on what he says in the chat, I think Don is like 12. But go ahead.
Oh well, I didn't know.
I'm just kidding.
Kramer's led them to their only playoff win since Eisenhower. Oh, literally, that's not an insult. That's not sarcasm. They've won 1 playoff game since 1957, and Eric Kramer was their quarterback.
Oh my goodness. Oh my.
Yeah, goodness. That's absolutely true. So when we think as Bear fans that shit can't get any worse, Green Bay's drubbing us, and you have to think, man, Detroit lost all 16 games one year, and they've had 2 superstars say that I will fucking quit than continue playing with this franchise. I'm just not doing it. I've had enough. Barry Sanders, Calvin Johnson, they both just fucking quit, and they haven't won a playoff game other than the one in 91 since 57. So shit could be way worse.
Yep.
Is what I'm trying to say.
Did you see that video of Dan Campbell, the Lions head coach, doing push-ups or doing some drills along with the team? And
oh my God, this guy, man! I didn't see that video, but how many years is this guy going to be there? Honestly, what, 2 maybe?
At max for sure.
This guy's going to get fired. I mean, I can't believe they hired this guy, especially after the last guy that came from New England. What's his fucking Patricia?
Yeah, Matt Patricia.
Matt Patricia didn't come out and, claim to be the ultimate warrior like this other guy, but he still did a bunch of weird shit, like they tell the press they need to have proper posture when they ask him questions, and it just feels like this hire coming after the Patricia hire. It amazes me. Like, why would you hire this guy right now?
Yeah.
Especially when you did have some success a few years ago with Jim Caldwell, completely different disposition.
Yep. I totally agree with you. And I don't blame the Lions so much. After they fired Caldwell, they went to the New England Patriots organization and
their GM came from New England too.
Exactly.
So it's an obvious connection.
Exactly. So, you go to the team that's had the most success in the NFL, you give these guys a shot. Didn't work out. They, those guys did not know how to build a team, and Matt Patricia alienated players with his behavior and his coaching tactics and so forth. Didn't work out, but I thought.
And then they hired another guy.
Exactly.
It'd be like if with the Bears when they like we said that, I think it was last week, the reason we got John Fox as Bear fans was because of Mark Trestman. They wanted to go completely opposite of Trestman, a guy that had never coached as a head coach before, with limited experience on offense, smarter than everybody else in the room. So they brought in the old time grizzled defensive coordinator to be completely antithetical to this other guy.
Yeah.
And it's so weird that Detroit fires this guy and brings in a guy that's like Matt Patricia on steroids.
Yep.
Not saying he is on steroids. I meant he's amped up. Like it's like Patricia's worst qualities times 10.
Yes, indeed. By the way, I want to share this from Stephen Me for you. He writes, I loved Eric Kramer. Was so sorry to hear he tried to kill himself. He was the first Bears quarterback I saw play live. Dublin preseason 1997.
That was in Ireland, right?
That was in Ireland. That's where Stephen's from.
Yeah. Oh, I didn't realize that. Yeah, awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, cool. Kramer, man. Like I said, I should bring his jersey to Cleveland so you can see it.
Yes, please.
I don't know if I ever told you the story on air, not to waste but another minute on it.
No,
but
please.
Back in those days, you didn't have NFL Shop,
Yes.
And so the internet's barely around, but I don't even know. I was going to get ready to say I Googled, but there's no Google yet as far as I can recall. So it was probably more like I asked Jeeves, or maybe I used Yahoo, whatever. I bet it was Ask Jeeves. Somewhere in like 97, I get the name of a business. I can't even think of. I don't even know what it is now. But it was a Chicago business. It wasn't like a store that I'd ever heard of. It was a Chicago-based business. So I called them and asked if they could customize jerseys, authentic jerseys. And I didn't even have a jersey yet. And they said yes. And so I sent them a money order. That's how this is so long ago. I mean, it feels like I'm talking about 1970 here, but so I sent them a money order, and almost the entire season goes by. And there's no way to track your order. You don't even have a phone that can just pull up shit instantaneously. Where's my package? I didn't have a tracking number. I had nothing. Every time I'd call them, they'd be like, yeah, we're working on it. We received, because I sent it with like delivery confirmation. So I knew they had it. But when the seasons are changing and shit, I sent this shit over in the summer and it's winter and I still don't have it. So I call them, and the company in Chicago is just fucking oblivious to. They have no idea if they've shipped it, if they've made it. They don't know. So I go back to my bank where I got the money order from, and I cancel the money order. And I can remember it was $193 and change. They wanted $180 for the jersey and like 13 whatever for shipping.
Mm-hmm.
So I get my money back. I cancel the money order. I'm just so dejected and thinking, I've waited for months to get this Eric Kramer jersey, and these fucks in Chicago don't know what the fuck they're doing. And within like the next 2 weeks, my jersey arrives. So I call the company up. I'm like, look, man, I canceled the order. Like, do I need to pay for this? And again, they still don't know. They're like, well, we have no record of it. And I got this jersey for nothing, is what I'm trying to say. Because I canceled the money order because the company didn't know what they were doing. They couldn't confirm if they've made it, if they've canceled, if they shipped it. Has the order been canceled? They did not know. They had no record of the order. I tried to call them and tell them that I got my money back. Maybe I need to repay you. And they still didn't have a record of the order. I even talked to a supervisor. Like, I don't want to cheat your company.
Mm-hmm.
And they just didn't give a fuck. They're like, well, it looks like everything must be fine because we shipped it. So I got the jersey for free.
Nice. Well, it's you deserve it. I mean, you've got like 20 Bears jerseys.
Well, that was my first. So I actually ended up getting one in between. It was my first ordered.
Uh-huh.
But I got a replica, and the replicas in those days were terrible. Yeah. But I got a replica made by Champion, a replica Curtis Conway that I ordered significantly later, like 2 months later, and it already come in because it didn't need to be customized.
Mm-hmm.
But the Conway one arrived first, but the first one I ordered was Kramer's. Mm-hmm. So, but I didn't even have to pay for it in the end, which was kind of a feat. I had one more incident like that.
Mm-hmm.
In the early 2000s, East Bay. I don't know if you ever bought from East Bay. I used to get a lot of shoes from East Bay as a kid. The company's out of Wisconsin, and they always had great access to shoes. I've always been a Nike guy, but again, before NFL Shop, they sold jerseys and stuff too, and now they have the same warehouse as NFL Shop and the Bears and Fanatics. It's all like one company now.
Mm-hmm.
But back then they had separate warehouses. Well, anyway, so I bought an Anthony Thomas jersey, the white Anthony Thomas jersey, a replica that they had to customize somewhere in the middle of his rookie season in 2001. Their computer system went down for like 3 days.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know what happened. I don't work for the company, but they couldn't take orders. You couldn't check your order. Everything was fucked. I called and they're telling me, everything's fucked basically. And whenever something happened, a glitch, what I'm trying to say is when their system got up and running again, they shipped me 2 Anthony Thomas jerseys.
Oh shit.
Now, granted, they were both white. They were both the same one, but they sent me 2 and they didn't realize it.
How cool is that?
Yeah, so I got one for free. So I'd always give it to my girlfriend at the time whenever she was around, my girlfriend back then, and we'd wear them together.
Nice.
But as fate would have it, my nephew was just born then, and his first name was Thomas. So when he grew up, I gave him the Anthony Thomas jersey because he's 6'5", just like me.
Ooh.
But he doesn't give a fuck about sports, but I gave him the Anthony Thomas jersey because it's got his name on the back. So, but I still have mine too because again, I accidentally got 2 somehow.
Pretty cool. Pretty cool. Somebody who was it? Steven says that he would love to see that jersey, that Kramer jersey.
Oh, I've got it for it. See, the Bears were made by Nike back then too. Not every team was.
Mm-hmm.
Back in those days, Adidas was around, Reebok and Nike making jerseys, and some even Wilson may have still been around. But thankfully, the Bears were a Nike team until Reebok took over. For years, it was Reebok, and then Nike came back in 2012.
Mm-hmm.
But it's an authentic 1997 Bears jersey, Nike, Eric Kramer, with the TV numbers down low. Because, when Nike got them in 12, they moved them up top on the shoulders. So, yeah, I've got them. Like I said, Hell, if worst case scenario tomorrow, I'll send you pictures if you want. But
Yes, please.
I can bring it to clear. It's a little bit tight now, a little bit tight.
I would imagine.
Yeah, I probably need a 54 or a 56 to be comfortable, and this was a 52, so I can get in it, but it's not. It's a little bit tight. I bought it when I was in the 11th grade, so give me a little bit of slack on that.
I will. By the way, I want to let people know that our merchandising store is open, Deep Dish Tees and .com and /barroom, or if you just go to deepdishtees.com, you will see Barroom up on the header. I mean, they've got lots of great t-shirts and hats and all sorts of stuff that's not Barroom related, but we love your support. Get a Barroom hat like the one I'm wearing, or a Barroom t-shirt, or any of the other swag from so many of our other shows. We would really appreciate your support to help us pay the bills that keep this operation running. So head over to deepdishtees.com and buy yourself a t-shirt or a hat, and then post a photograph of you wearing it or some lovely young woman wearing it, and that way we could spread it to the World Wide Web.
I'm wearing the hat that you bought me, actually.
Which one is that? I forgot.
Or maybe your wife bought it. I can't remember what you said. It's like a Bears trucker hat from a couple seasons ago.
Yes. Actually,
I think you have the same hat, right?
Yes, I do. And by the way, we've got Barroom trucker hats that I look really cool. I'm wearing one right now. It's all white, so you can't see it. And but these really are cool. And there's one that's blue and white. It's just killer looking. I really, really love it. I didn't realize that trucker hats were kind of back in vogue. And so
Ashton Kutcher brought them back a few years ago.
He did indeed.
Yeah.
And so when the deep dish guy says, "Hey, we got cool trucker hats," I was like, "Really? Trucker hats?" He goes, "Yeah, they look cool." And so when he sent me a picture of it, I was like, yeah. And then with the Barroom logo on it, looks tits, man. Speaking of tits, I get sucked in. I'm in a kind of an unusual position here at home where my wife and her daughter, my stepdaughter, they like to watch these romance shows, these reality shows. And the one big one that's on now on CBS is called Love Island. And the premise of the show is that they put these couples into an island. Well, with the pandemic now, they're using closed off hotels or what have you, and they do these stupid things to try to pair up these couples and stuff. So I start watching along with them, as I'm having dinner or just sitting around doing graphics for the Barroom Network. And holy moly, the women on this! I'm putting up a picture of 3 of the women who came onto the show recently. Their bodies, their looks, they're so unbelievable. And the only reason I'm bringing this up right now is because, what was it, 2 nights ago, I had a wet dream with this one here. This woman, her name is Genevieve. My wife doesn't know this, but if she would have checked the sheets, she would have noticed there was some semen.
Wow.
I mean, I just had such a erotic dream with this woman. I'm not ashamed to say it because I'm going to be 63 years old, and it's great to be able to brag that I'm still having wet dreams. But this woman was so sensational. This show is really stupid, but it's addictive because you get into these stupid reality show lives and stuff, and people acting like kids and blah, blah, blah. It's really silly. But again, Genevieve, if you're out there, call me. No, just kidding. My wife.
Hey, it's impressive that I've never had a wet dream.
Never?
I always felt like I got cheated. Like I would dream, about ladies and stuff when I was like 14, 15, but I've never just like had an orgasm where I'm like, where did that come from? Like that would, no pun intended. That would be great. I didn't have to do any work, didn't have to beat it off or anything. Just kind of press a button and the shit just comes. So that'd be great.
4,000 Clover says that he will only watch porn parodies of these shows. And I got to tell you, I mean, some of the stuff that is going on now on network television with these shows, it's like, I grew up watching 70s and 80s porn where there was a lot of plot. There was a lot of foreplay. There was a lot of titillation before you got to see penetration. Well, these shows like Love Island are essentially porn movies from the 70s and 80s. That part of the movie before they get down and have sex, that's what's going on. There's all of these this flirting and women walking around with bikinis and high heels and stuff, just getting you all riled up for action. And I gotta believe that in another 10 years, when the broadcast TV networks are now totally gone streaming, that these shows are going to show, penetration or some soft porn. Like, for instance, this CBS show, Love Island, it's on 4 nights a week, 4 nights. And then there's a 5th night that's on Paramount Plus, where it's supposedly unedited footage. Now, they're not showing any pornography or anything like that, and people are fucking on the show. But apparently, it's a little bit more titillating and a little bit more side boobage, or I don't know what it is. I don't have Paramount Plus. I wish I did, because I want to see Genevieve bouncing her breasts around. But I just believe that we're headed towards a time where the days of, broadcast television stations, ABC, CBS, NBC, and their more mass appeal type programming is just going to go away, and they're going to go for the bucks and just start showing basic fucking on television. What do you think of that, Dan?
I don't know. The FCC is always good. I mean, you can say fuck on cable now, and even almost everything else but shit and fuck and cunt on like NBC or something. So that's really evolved. But I don't know about the fuck. If you're going to fuck maybe on FX or something, I can't see that on network TV. There's too many conservatives.
But I'm saying, because it will be streaming and it won't be like over the airwaves. The airwaves are owned by the public, and so yes, you have to have certain standards, because the public says, hey, I don't want that shit going over. But over a cable network that you're paying for, you can do whatever you want.
Oh yeah. Well, I guess if you're going to look at it that way, then it's kind of no difference between that and like all the Cinemax I may have jacked off to in like 1995 or something. Like the Friday Night After Dark softcore porn.
Oh, yeah.
Like Emmanuel,
Oh yeah. When I was in my late teens, early 20s, and I had a professional job, and they sent me traveling. One of the first assignments I had, I was like 20 years old. I had to travel throughout the Midwest for a trade show, and I was like the projectionist. I would show up to the hotel, I'd set up the screen, I set up the projectors, and then when they had their sales presentation, I would be operating stuff back screen. And so I'd be reading books while, punching the slide to go forward, hitting the movie. But at night, all of a sudden I had access to porn, because the hotel had porn. And I never, as a kid at home, we didn't have access to porn. We didn't have VHS at the time and stuff. And so I would, watch like 4 or 5 porn movies during my 2 or 3 days in Dubuque, Iowa, and Indianapolis, Indiana, and so forth. And I had to figure out how to get it off the bill before I turned in the receipt to my employers. And so I would always go to the front desk and say, I'd like to remove these movie charges here. I'll pay for those cash and so forth. And the lady at the front desk is always giving me that look. Oh, I'd be happy to help you, Mr. Gandia. You fucking horny pervert, you.
Mr. Gonorrhea, you pervert.
That's right. I promise not to watch any porn when we're in Cleveland together, unless you bring any.
No. This is a platonic kind of adventure.
What was the movie? Did you ever see the movie with on the life story of Bob Crane, who was the head of the lead cast member of Hogan's Heroes, the old CBS television show about a prisoner of war camp? And Bob Crane was Hogan, and he was this smart guy who was always outfoxing the German commandant, the head of the POW. Well, in real life, Bob Crane had a very, very bad sex addiction that he would, video had just started coming out. He started shooting movies of himself having sex with women, and despite the fact that he was married, he had this huge collection of sex tapes of him having sex with women, and he had a partner on this this endeavor, and he and his partner were just like going down this really, really seedy road. I got to find the name of this movie because I think you'll like it. And so there's a scene where both of them are watching Bob Crane having sex with a woman, and they both pull out their dicks and start masturbating to this. I'm like, holy shit. Wow. I could never, ever imagine, masturbating alongside of a friend. And I've had a lot of friends who have had threesomes, foursomes, having sex with a buddy and a couple of girls, that kind of. I can't do that. I'm sorry. I don't want to see your penis penetrating some woman. I'd rather have sex just like when I watch a football game, I'd rather be alone. I'd rather have sex with just me and the woman. That's it. I don't want anybody else in the room. I'm sorry.
Well, I have a story for you.
Oh, wait a minute, real quick. Stephen Me has the title. It's Autofocus with Greg Kinnear and Willem Dafoe. You are the man, Stephen. Check that movie out, Dan. Write it down. Autofocus. I think you'll like it.
I watched a movie that had Willem Dafoe's penis in it, the whole movie, called Antichrist. From 2009. I mean, literally his dick's in it the whole movie. The woman smashes him in the fucking balls with a cement block and starts sucking his dick, and he comes blood.
Oh,
yeah, she cuts her off her own clit with a pair of scissors too. It's
Antichrist, Willem Dafoe. Okay, I got that.
It's like this. He's fucking his lady in the shower in like slow motion for like the first 5 minutes of the film, and their child falls out a window and plummets to his death because the kid's a toddler, and it's during a snowstorm, and it's all in slow mo with like classical music playing and shit. And then it's like, how do you overcome the guilt of your kid dying? And the woman like loses her mind. And they go to this secluded place in the woods because he's a licensed therapist too, even though he's working with his own wife, trying to help her overcome the guilt, and all this bad shit happens. Again, I don't know if it's a metaphor or if she's really supposed to be possessed, but either way, the shit goes down in the woods. And Antichrist, you should definitely check that out.
I will definitely check that out. Want to share another comment from Steven. Thanks for being so active in the chat, Steven. He says that he used to collect jerseys. He's got a few gems, but being from Ireland, it was so hard to get Bears jerseys. He says, I have a few Urlacher authentics, but my best jerseys are from other teams. You want to share your disdain of Brian Urlacher? I think people love hearing why you are not an Urlacher fan.
Well, I'd like to tell you a fun sex story, actually, real quick.
Is this involving you or Brian Urlacher?
Well, no. It's what you mentioned a minute ago, like being around a buddy.
Okay.
And it was the day that the Bears defeated Green Bay to win the division. Charles Leno's big day on the field in 2018. So we hadn't beaten Green Bay at home since 2010. And, Mitch is throwing touchdowns, beating Aaron Rodgers. The only bad thing that day is Eddie Jackson gets hurt and ends up missing the playoffs and everything with an interception. Just falls down funny. And I had a bad feeling about that. But either way, I was still like so amped up that, the Bears had beaten Green Bay to win the division. So my cousin, who again was becoming a huge addict, was there. And I always loved the guy, and I had a roommate at the time, and I grew up with him. And so I was like, man, you know what I'd really like? I'd like to have some, God, it'd be great to get laid tonight, or at least get blown or something, And I'm not going to say any names or anything, but my cousin was like, oh, he's country, he's like, you want me to call up an old whore? And I was like, hey, can you get us a lady? He was like, oh yeah, I can get you a girl. So my friend Michael and I, we were sitting on my couch. It was one of those sectionals, We're sitting on the couch, and the quote unquote old whore
suck both of her dicks. Like she would go from one dick to the other, we're just sitting there shoulder to shoulder. Like it's like we're sitting on the bench and she's just taking turns blowing both of us. And she finished us both off and she left. So
that's amazing. So and you had no qualms at all about getting your dick sucked alongside of another man.
No, and he came first too. So like I had to come in her mouth with, I guess, some remnants of his cum in her mouth, and I didn't give a shit, man. At least I still came,
Wow. I got to tell you, when I don't have to tell you this, but I guess I will. When I want to say I was 15 years old, because the first time I got laid, I was 16 years old. So this was before I got laid. There were a bunch of us at Humboldt Park here in the city of Chicago. And Humboldt Park is, at the time, was kind of a notorious inner city park, a lot of crime and so forth. So I forgot if we were playing sports or anything, but we were on our way home, and there is a gay man sitting in a park bench, and he was a mechanic. I'll never forget this guy.
Charles Bronson was there? the mechanic?
No, this guy was an auto mechanic, no relation to Charles Bronson, the famous movie star. But this guy was a rotund, thick forearmed guy who was gay, and asked us, the guys stopped and talked with him and asked the guys, "Call me Rosita." And I'm like, oh, fuck. So he says to the guys, I will give each of you $5 if you let me suck your dick. And so all the guys start, oh, wait, should we do it? $5, and again, this is like 1974, 75.
And what's minimum wage in 1974?
Yeah, minimum wage is probably $3.20. So,
well, this seems like a lowball figure here.
Yeah, well, there was 10 guys. So, and the guys say, yeah, I'm going to do it. There were a couple of real horny guys on our group. I was the youngest. I always hung out with guys who were older than me, because they were primarily my brother's friends and my cousin's friends, who were a couple of years older. And so they allowed me to stick around because, I made them laugh. I was the only one that could read within the group and so forth. And so everyone is saying, okay, well, if I'm going to do it, then you have to do it. Everybody has to do it and so forth. And my fucking heart starts pounding like crazy. It's like, there's no fucking way that I'm going to let my first sexual experience is going to be with Rosita, the big four-armed mechanic. And so
that sounds like a porn in itself. the mechanic.
Yes, that's right.
Or the plumber or something,
So I tell the guys, hey, listen, I'm not going to do this. Just pretend I wasn't even here. I'm going to go home. And so they start fucking riling me, giving me shit. No, Aldo, you got to do it. You fucking have to do it. You got to get your dick sucked. So as I'm arguing with a couple of guys, I look over to my right, and there's the first guy getting his dick sucked by the Rosita. I'm like, holy shit. And I go, look, these guys have already started. And so I diverted the attention to the dick sucking, and I slowly started to walk home and got away from what would have been my first sexual experience, which would have been with a gay man who happened to be a mechanic.
God, I can't top that, but I have a similar story, sort of, not with men, but it might as well have been. The same guy I was just talking about, that he and I were getting blown together by that lady after the Bears Packers game in 2018. Mm-hmm. We were kids in like 1996 at his house. I remember he had WCW Monday Nitro on the TV, and his parents were gone. Like, I don't know where the fuck they were, but they weren't home. So there was this, this girl's dead now, but an unattractive lady on our street, to say the least. She looked like Andy Dalton. Mm-hmm. She's like the orange hair and stuff, but so she comes in, and she's blowing Michael. Mm-hmm. And again, I'm like fucking 15 and he's like 12, and she's already blowing him. And so he's like, well, why don't you go and blow Danny here too, get him some, And then she looks at me and she says,
I'm tired of like just giving out for other people. If you want me to suck your dick, you're going to have to fuck me. And I had only fucked one person at the time. So even if she was hot, I'd have probably been a little bit intimidated by it. But either way, like I said, I just so wasn't into her. You know, like I said, she looks like Andy Dalton for real.
Yeah.
And I just was like, fuck this. I'm just gonna beat off and go watch wrestling. I'm not gonna do it. But I didn't do the redheaded girl or the orange haired girl. Michael got his head, and she didn't. She said I had to fuck her if I was gonna get it, so I didn't get anything from her.
I shouldn't say the story, but so I won't mention the name. But you can guess who it is because I was with this person today. He was telling me that he's never had sex with a black woman before, and so he was with his friends, and his friends were always saying, "Hey, you know, one of these days we're going to hook you up." And so there was this prostitute who came over to him, and apparently she was not in the best of shape, and she was trying to get Danny to. Oh, I mentioned the name.
Danny Shimon?
Oh, I'm so sorry.
No, it could be me. It could be me. I'm Danny as well.
Danny
although I've fucked a couple black ladies, so I don't want to embarrass Mr. The other Danny.
So she says, hey, $10. I don't know what it was she said. And he was thinking to himself, there's just no way that my first experience with an African-American woman is going to be with you. So anyways, I don't know why I shared that story. I'm so sorry.
No, I'm glad you did.
Sorry, Danny.
But I think that's pretty awesome. I would rather done that lady than the lady that looked like Andy Dalton, though, for my story. I'm telling you, she was awful. Now, she was slim, but I mean, she was so unattractive.
What was the most unattractive woman you've ever had sex with?
I mean, most of the ladies are always better looking than me because I'm a guy and they're women, but God, I don't know.
Well, according to Brandy, you're a very handsome man in person.
That's she was just being nice, but I appreciate it anyway. The girl always looks better than me, but I don't know, someone that's like awful. Like I don't want to say I've been okay. So this is true. This is so true. I don't know if I've ever told this story on air. My friend Michael was involved in this one as well. So it's 2004. I'm a college senior. I'm about to graduate in the next weekend or something. So I was trying to fuck this cheerleader who ended up becoming a huge right winger, but at the time she was liberal in college. But I was trying to fuck this lady in Victoria, and we were going to go to ride roller coasters and shit, all day on this Sunday, but it was the night before. So it was like Saturday night at like 11 p.m. And I was going to stay in my dorm room because I was supposed to meet up with Victoria at like 11 o'clock in the morning or whatever, and just go and like bungee jump, do all this shit all day, just an all day excursion, So the night before, because she told me she was busy on Saturday night, she couldn't hang out with me. But my cousin, the same one I was talking about earlier, become an act, he was going to go. And so he's there, and Michael wasn't going to go, but he's there with us because, again, these guys were my boys back in the day. And so we're at the dorm room, and they're like, man, let's go. You're here, man. You got to know some women. Let's go hang out with some women. Like, it's 11 o'clock on a Saturday night. I don't want to just be here with you two fucks, a couple other guys in this dorm room. And I was like, well, I got to get up real early. We're going to go. Oh, come on, man. Let's just go see some girls. So I was like, all right. I pulled up Yahoo Messenger. That's how old the story is now. I get up on Yahoo Messenger, and I'm like, all right, I see two girls on campus that are online on this. They're like, yes, let's go. And I was like, well, they're not the best looking. And they're like, man, dude, I don't care. Let's just I'm sitting here like at a stag party. Get me around some vagina, So, all right, we go to the girls' dorm. And things start to get weird immediately. So the girl, again, I'm not shaming any ladies and saying that like everyone's a size 2 or anything like that.
Sure.
In fact, when I got married, I think at the time my wife was I don't know, like 160 pounds. And I thought she was the most beautiful lady I'd ever seen. So when we got married, so it's what I'm saying. Like, and then, she put on weight when her dad died and I didn't give a fuck. I just didn't care. Anyway, but I'm not shaming them because they were a little bit bigger, but they happen to be bigger. That's all I'm saying.
Okay.
And so they pull out some draws, some panties, like just some incredible, like, there's no way in hell I'm going to be photographed or in any scenario. I have a hard enough time being a good looking guy. So I'm too masculine to even attempt to be androgynous. But this girl pulls out these panties and has them taking off their clothes and putting on her panties. And they're significantly too big for the guys. I'll just say that. So it's so weird. My friends are my cousin and my friend are standing there wearing women's underwear. And I'm like, God, I didn't even want to be in this room, And so this girl named Jessica asks me, why don't you put on Alyssa's underwear? And I was like, man, you can say what you want. Call me uptight, call me a pussy, whatever. I'm not putting on any girl's underwear. I'm just not, man. And she's like, well, why don't you take off yours then? And I was like, well, I can do that. So I'm like, God, is that what they really want? So anyway, I take off my shit and I'm like thinking like, man, I wish I wouldn't have because I'm soft and there's 3 guys and 2 women here. But she looks at me and she goes, I had been trying to fuck her roommate that semester. And like, so I had classes with her, but as far as I knew, she was into ladies, like exclusively. And she brings this up. She goes, well, I just want you to know that, I guess you could say I'm a lesbian. I'm like, yeah, I got that. But she's like, I'm so excited that you took off your underwear when I mentioned it though. And she's like, I can't believe I'm saying this, but I just really want to suck your dick right now.
Jeez.
And I was like, okay. And she's like, okay. I was like, yeah, go ahead, But she takes off her glasses. And as soon as she does, her eyes go crossed. I swear to fucking God. I swear on my mom's grave, I've got a cross-eyed lesbian blowing me. And at the same time, Michael comes up behind her and he's acting like he's turned on by it. Like he's like gritting his teeth. He's like, that's right, bitch, suck his fucking dick, smacking her on the ass. And the more he's doing it, the more turned on she's getting. Like she's ferociously blowing me at this point. And so this weird thing's happening. And next thing I know, my friend Michael is screaming like, ow, bitch, stop. The other girl is into biting.
Oh, no.
So the other girl's biting him in like weird spots, like weird, like the folds of his thigh and all these strange places. So I finish and I'm like, fuck this. I got to get up early. I got to go. This is like they're in the girl's underwear, the lesbian cross-eyed lady's blowing me. Like it's just this whole night's weird. So I go home, I go back to my dorm. And next thing I know, Michael comes, this is like an hour later. I'm still awake trying to go to sleep and my door bursts open and he's like, God damn it. That stupid fucking cousin of yours got my car towed. And I was like, what do you mean? He goes, yeah, because he didn't want to fuck one of those girls. So he had to desperately go see Brandy, not the Brandy from last week. And of course he doesn't have a license and they towed my fucking vehicle. And I'm like, how did this happen? He wouldn't tell me the whole story. So I'm going to try to finish this up. So I'm like, all right, I'll get dressed. So now it's much later. It's like 2 a.m. We're outside. We go back to the girls' dorm and I see the same girl again, but by this time I'm horny again. So I get head from the same girl again, the cross-eyed lesbian. And by this time, DJ, my cousin, comes in the door and the police has told him just to go to sleep. And I'm like, what happened? He said, your stupid ass friend, the other one's calling the other one stupid, said, yeah, I was going to drive his car. And then Michael started pissing in the parking lot and the police saw it on camera and came over and then saw I didn't have a license and fucking arrested me and impounded his car because he was pissing in the parking lot. And anyway, the weird night gets even stranger. Jesus. When Michael's telling me the next morning, because I go back to bed, I see, well, DJ's awake and out of jail. I don't have to worry about bonding him out. the next morning, because Victoria no-shows the fucking the roller coaster shit, gives me some BS excuse. So I tell Michael, your car is impounded, so just ride with me. Fuck, just take her ticket. We'll all three go. Along the way, we're all trying to get rehydrated, and so we go to eat like sausage, biscuits, and soak up that alcohol, get some grease and some Gatorade, and he's telling me, he's like, "Oh, Michael, tell him what happened with you and Alyssa." And he goes, "Oh, if I do, I'll puke." Long story short, he said the girl was giving him good head when he could get her to stop biting him. And so he felt compelled, like he had to do something to reciprocate. He's like, I really didn't want to go down on her, but he's like, I could at least rub one out for her. And he said that he starts to play with her, and she has a piece of toilet paper that's like 6 inches long stuck to her fucking clit.
Oh no!
And he's like, oh God, I had to leave. He's like, it's the most disgusting thing I've ever seen in my entire life. So anyway, that was a strange night. I don't know if Jessica was the most unattractive by any stretch, but the cross-eyed thing, it was brutal. Like I kept thinking, please keep your glasses on, but
well, I would imagine
Michael had the toilet paper lady. So
with your sexual prowess, that most women go cross-eyed when they're having sex with you.
No. This was like a caricature of cross-eyed, like if you were at an optometrist office and they were like, "This is what we can do here. We can treat this shit," and have posters of like people with fucked up eyes or something. That was how bad it was. It was like a horror movie.
People in the chat room are kind of split on the whole thing. Some people are like, green-faced and vomiting, and other people are like, I feel like Zach writes, I feel like I need to experience this cross-eyed blowjob experience thing.
From a lesbian, no less.
From a lesbian, indeed.
And ironically, you were mentioning a certain member of the bar room wanting to sleep with an African-American female. Jessica's female, her lesbian lover, happened to be a black lady. Jessica herself was white.
Okay.
But anyway, just a fun fact.
Yeah. Your recall on sex stories is even more impressive than football games.
And the funny thing, and real quick to finish the story out. So we do at Carowinds, which is like, it's in North Carolina, like the theme park. It's like Six Flags or whatever. Mm-hmm. It's a Paramount one, And they have this thing called the Sky Coaster. And again, I'm scared to death of fucking heights, but I do this anyway because in my head, my dad was a paratrooper. It was airborne in the Army. And like, it's for some reason, it makes me feel like for 30 seconds, I can be like my dad or something, which I couldn't be. But it makes you slowly ascend into the air 175 feet. And then they just fucking drop you. And but when you're about to hit the ground, you start to swing, and anyway. So Michael and I had done this with my girlfriend in like 2000, and he was terrified. He just put his eyes down in my forearm and didn't watch the whole time. He's like, I just can't watch. He's like, fuck this. Why did I pay for this shit? But that day he was so mad about his fucking vehicle being towed. We're up in the air 175 feet. And he's stone-faced, man. He's like, I can't believe my fucking car was towed. And we're just dropping in there. He doesn't give a fuck, man. He's still bitching. He's on roller coasters all day. Everybody's like, scared and shit. Not scared, but just adrenaline. And he's bitching all day long. Man, I can't believe my fucking car got towed. Like all day, he's not happy on any of the rides or scared or yelling or anything. All day he's pissed off. Even when we're dropping from like almost 200 feet in the air, he's not even selling that because he's so mad about his vehicle.
That's crazy. Hey,
he's like, how am I going to come up with the $250 to pay to get this out?
Of course. That's a huge concern. People are saying that Steven is saying at least Dan had sex with a female. Aldo's getting blowies from mechanics for $5. No, I didn't. I ran away.
Yeah, I didn't do the mechanic. I don't want to judge your pals or anything. But.
Oh my gosh. Zach says 17 jumps, half a dozen safeties as a jump master in my time with the 82nd. Thank you, Zach, for your time serving our country. Hey, what have you seen in the world of cinema that you'd like to share with us in our last 20 minutes here?
I watched a movie. I bet you like it. For some reason, it seems like something you would like, and I was so disappointed in it. I watched it last night. Evidently, it was the first Coen Brothers movie.
Blood Simple?
Yeah, I thought Blood Simple sucked.
What?
It's fucking sucked.
What?
I didn't like it at all. I knew you'd have that reaction. I thought it sucked. I didn't.
Why? What didn't you like about it?
I don't know, man. It's like the whole thing seems fucking pointless. So the husband gets buried, and he's alive. Is he not alive? And then the dude that gets killed in The Fly, what's his name? John Getz. I don't know what his name is. The main character in Blood Simple.
Yes.
He gets shot, and it just then the hitman like dies or something, and like starts. First off, I didn't like his character. He was too much of a redneck. Mm-hmm. The end of the movie, she's like, well, she's still blaming it on her husband, and he says something like, well, if I see him, I'll tell him, and starts laughing as he's bleeding out. it just is so implausible. That's not dialogue that anyone would have when they're sitting there bleeding out. That's why I did. The whole movie felt pointless.
It's a Joel and Ethan Coen film who have gone on to make tremendous movies. This was their first film.
There's only been one that they did that I really, really loved, by the way.
Which is?
No Country for Old Men.
Oh, great movie. All right, so let's look through their filmography here. And Ethan Coen. This is the brother team. Joel is the producer, writer, director. I guess both of them kind of share those duties, right?
I liked Burn After Reading too. So there's been two. I like Burn After Reading.
The Brad Pitt one, right? George Clooney.
Yeah, and George Clooney. Yeah, that was fun.
Fargo, 1996.
It's okay. I didn't love it. The show's okay too. I only watched season 1, but it was okay. Nothing that I want to like brag about or put over.
Oh my goodness. Bad Santa. They were the executive producers. They didn't really have.
I didn't even know that was a Coen Brother movie, but it's okay.
It's Brother, okay. Where art thou?
Never saw that one.
You will love it. Trust me.
I doubt it.
The Big Lebowski.
I did not like that at all. Like unequivocally hated that movie.
I didn't hate it, but I didn't like it either. So
I don't like Jeff Bridges' character in it whatsoever. I hate the dude.
Yeah, I'm with you there.
I fucking hate that movie.
I didn't get it. Stephen Me says, by the way, that Burn After Reading was their worst movie, and he says that
I like the sex chair that George Clooney builds and the dildo chair. Yeah. Anyway, go ahead. I'm sorry. What do you say?
No, he goes on to say that Fargo was a classic, and Zach agrees with him. Fargo was great. Raising Arizona.
I did like Raising Arizona.
Yeah, good one with
Nicolas Cage
and Holly Hunter, right?
And John Goodman and the guy that fought Muhammad Ali. What was his name? Randall Tex Cobb.
Oh, that's right. He's in that too. Miller's Crossing, the movie they did right after Raising Arizona. I thought Miller's Crossing was a great crime picture. You didn't care for it, huh?
I don't think I saw that.
I think you'd like that one. It's really, really well done. I'm surprised that's all. Well, at least that's all that I've seen. I haven't seen The Ballad of Buster Scruggs, which was a 2018 movie. Did you ever see that?
No.
What is that about? I don't even fucking know what that's about.
I know that one with Clooney from a few years ago looked horrible.
Which one is that?
Oh God, you'll have to say it's not that. It's like 3, 4, 5 years ago.
It's a Coen Brothers movie.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's got George Clooney in it. Maybe it's not Coen. I thought it was.
Did you ever see True Grit? I forgot that was a Coen Brothers movie. That's a great movie.
That sounds like a Clint Eastwood movie.
Well, the original was John Wayne, and I think he won his only Oscar for that. And then it was redone with Jeff Bridges, Matt Damon, and Josh Brolin, and it's an excellent movie. And a woman in that picture, Haley Steinfeld, is gone. She was like a teenager when she made that movie, and it's a revenge picture. If somebody close to her and her family is killed, and so she seeks out these gunmen to help get her revenge on these people. I thought it was an excellent movie. True Grit.
I did not see that.
I think you'll like it. I really do. Although I don't know about your taste sometimes.
I'm looking up Clooney. I'm trying to find his filmography.
Hail Caesar, says Stephen Me.
What is it now?
Hail Caesar.
Oh yeah, that looked awful to me.
Well, let's see what it says here, because I really don't know much about it. 2016, Hail Caesar, Ralph Fiennes. How does IMDb describe it? It says this movie follows a day in the life of Eddie Mannix, who was played by Josh Brolin, a Hollywood fixer for Capitol Pictures in the 1950s, who cleans up and solves problems for big names. Sounds like Wolf in the Pulp Fiction character. But when the studio star Brad Whitlock, played by George Clooney, disappears, Mannix has to deal with more than just the fix. Sounds pretty cool.
The trailer looked bad though. Back whenever it came out, I just thought it looked awful.
Mm-hmm. Let's see. A Simple Man. You seen that one?
No.
Yeah, Stephen Mee says don't watch it because that's a Coen Brothers brother. He says it was crap. Coens have some greats and lots of trash too, when they're good, though they're good. I would have to agree. I mean, these guys take chances with their storytelling, and so sometimes it's a miss and sometimes it's a hit. I find them to be fascinating filmmakers. I like guys that take risks as opposed to so many other filmmakers who just do the same shit over and over, Hollywood style pictures with the same conclusion. Fuck that. I'd rather risk seeing a bad movie from the Coen brothers than watch, something that we've all seen a million times before.
But see, I disagree with that in the premise that I think the Coen brothers make the same shit over and over. Like,
really?
if you watch the Fargo TV series, that first season, Billy Bob Thornton's character is a fucking rip, just a complete rip of Javier Bardem from No Country for Old Men, minus the tool that he uses to kill people with that air thing.
Right. But I in defense of the Coen brothers, they're just the executive producers on that, which means that they help raise money for the financing of that. I think it's Noah Hawley who is the creative brains behind those 4 seasons of Fargo. He's written every episode. He directs the majority of the episodes. It's Noah Hawley who is the creative guy behind that. So that first season does feel a bit derivative from Coen Brothers movies. But if you watch season 2, 3, and 4, and I highly recommend season 3 being the best of all of those, but all of them are worthy of watching. I like that Fargo TV season. I really do.
The first season was so much of a rip of No Country for Old Men that I didn't even want to keep watching it. I almost wanted to quit watching it mid-season, but I wasn't watching it when it aired. I watched it like maybe last year. So I was like, fuck it, I'm going to watch this whole fucking season though, just because. And I got through it, but it was work. Like it just wasn't my thing.
Yeah, I don't see that. I don't get why you would feel that way. But
it just was such a ripoff of No Country for Old Men with the character. But something that I did kind of like, and I'm not sure how I missed it. The movie's from '96, and I had never watched it until I think I watched it Sunday night. But the named actors in it were Kevin Bacon and Brad Pitt was in it. I'm trying to think anybody else with like really, really large name significance. Oh yeah. Robert De Niro. How could I forget that? It's the 3rd movie I've seen De Niro play a priest though. That was kind of disappointing. Like, how many fucking priest movies does he have? But it's called Sleepers.
Yes. Excellent movie.
I had never watched that ever. Like, I'd never even heard anybody talk about it until like I just completely missed that film until the other night. I didn't love it, but I was entertained. It's not like I'm probably ever going to watch it again. But for what it was worth, I did like it at that time. But you got True Confessions and Sleepers and We're No Angels, where De Niro's playing a priest.
Oh yeah, that's right. Barry Levinson, by the way, directed Sleepers, who is famous for his movies directed in Baltimore. He did Diner. He was behind.
I hated Diner.
You hated Diner? Why would you hate Diner?
I hated Diner. I just hated it. And I like a couple of the guys in it too. Like I really like Steve Guttenberg. Who else was in that?
Kevin Bacon was in it.
Yeah. Kevin Bacon. There was a good cast, man. I think maybe Mickey Rourke was in it too. I really don't like him.
Really?
I really, really hate Mickey Rourke. Like, there's a good movie where was De Niro a priest in this too? No, he was the devil.
No, yeah. No.
Where he's the devil, Desert Heart or something was it called? With it's Lenny Kravitz's wife.
Yeah.
The one from the Cosby Show.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's fucking the shit out of her in that, but I hate his character. I just don't like him at all. Like, he almost ruins that movie.
Which movie are we talking about now?
The one with De Niro where he's playing the devil. And,
Devil's. Was it called Devil's Advocate? No.
No, that's Pacino and Keanu Reeves. It's from '87. Like,
it takes place in New Orleans, right? If I remember correctly.
I think so. I'll look it up. I'll just look it up. But yeah, it's got Lisa Bonet in it, and she's really young, and she's got hair in her arms, which is, again, I always wonder.
Angel Heart. Zach Sullivan to the rescue. Angel Heart.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like that movie. I saw it in the theater.
I like the movie. I don't like Mickey Rourke, is what I'm saying. I think he's a bullshit, overrated actor.
Really? I don't see that. First role that Mickey Rourke was in, I think it was his first movie role, was in Body Heat, where he helps the William Hurt character come up with a bomb. And he immediately, he's got a great screen presence. And he's been in a number of movies that I thought were good. And then his career went sideways because he was having all sorts of personal problems. And then he comes back with a movie called The Wrestler.
I saw The Wrestler. The only thing I liked about The Wrestler was Marissa Tomei.
Well, but I thought he was
so
good.
hot.
Yeah, she's hot in everything. Marissa Tomei is outstanding actor.
Even as an older lady or a younger lady, she's incredible.
Yes. And then he was in the Sin City movies.
I didn't like Sin City. I watched it because Bruce Willis was in it, and that they got me on the trailer for Jessica Alba looking so just fucking incredible on it.
Mm-hmm.
But I watched it, and I don't like comic book shit. I just couldn't get into that at all. Rutger Hauer was in that as well.
I love that. I mean, it's visually sumptuous. It's fucking great. I mean, I thought it sucked.
Benicio del Toro's in it too, and I love Benicio del Toro.
Oh, it's a great cast, and the women are all so fucking
Oh, they are.
sexy.
I couldn't get into it. I just couldn't get into it.
I would watch that movie with the volume off just because it's visually so great. By the way, Stephen reminds us of Mickey Rourke in 9.5 Weeks with Kim Basinger. I think it was the female.
I didn't
lead.
see that.
Very sexy movie. I think
she was a good-looking lady for sure.
I think if you like Lolita, with the second one with Jeremy Irons, I think you'll like 9.5 Weeks. But you're not a Mickey Rourke fan, so maybe not. I don't know.
No, that's one actor I just don't. He's right up there with Vin Diesel. Just somebody, for whatever reason, I guess we all have people we just don't like. And that's an actor I do not like. I just, for some reason, like if I see him it just makes me like, why is this guy in this?
Yeah, I feel that way about Andrew McCarthy,
yeah, which is funny to me.
But
like when I was a kid, Andrew McCarthy was in a lot of good 80s comedies, so I don't feel that way. Plus, he's in that good John Frankenheimer movie with Sharon Stone.
Which one is that one?
Though I've told you about it before, where they're in Italy.
Yeah.
It's like Sharon Stone's last movie before Basic Instinct, I think.
Okay.
She's naked in it too. It's not a comedy at all. It's an action like thriller about like a coup attempt in Italy.
So
from like 91.
So let me I'll tell you in a second here. It is Diary of Hitman. No, 1991. Year of the Gun, One Sleeping Dogs.
Year of the Gun. That's it.
Year of the Gun. Oh, yeah, that is a Frankenheimer movie. I gotta watch that.
It's low budget, but for what it's worth, it's really good. And Andrew McCarthy does a great job.
Oh, that's right, he's in it. No, never mind. I won't watch it.
I liked Less Than Zero with him in it a lot.
No. See, he ruins that movie for me. First of all, Robert Downey Jr. should have won like multiple Oscars for his.
Yeah, it's pretty incredible. But he actually went into rehab after that himself because he was really strung out doing it.
Yeah. So yeah, he was acting based on his real life experience. Jamie Gertz is the female lead. She was okay. James Spader.
She's hot though.
She's super hot. James Spader plays the villain in the movie. The soundtrack is great from the Bangles.
Soundtrack's great.
Fabulous. Andrew McCarthy ruins the fucking movie for me. I'm sorry. It's like,
see, I like Andrew McCarthy. I liked him in Weekend at Bernie's.
I just don't. I don't buy him as a lead, a male lead. To me, he comes off as wimpy. His acting seems programmed. Yeah, for me, he's my to you. What's the guy you just said that you hate?
Vin Diesel or Mickey Rourke.
Yeah. By the way, 4,000 Clovers just brought up Eva Mendes. I'm still waiting for her to leave her husband for me. Yeah, get in line, 4,000 Clovers. I'm first. PJ.
The lady I want to even if she's 70, she's not that old yet. I want Annabella Sciorra.
Yeah, well,
that's who I want. I want her to come and
I got bad news for you.
Even if she's wearing diapers at an old age, I definitely want to be with her.
She was in, was it last season or the season before? I watched Law and Order SVU, and she was in that TV show. And it wasn't until the very last, and she had a prominent role in this episode. It wasn't until the very last scene where I said, wait a minute, that's Annabella Sciorra. She's had work done and she's gained weight. And
don't care.
And I'm the same way. You know, if you have a crush on someone and that crush is going to continue on for years and years and years, even, you know, after that initial beauty has faded. But man, she just doesn't look like Annabella anymore. It's so sad. The Annabella from The Sopranos, you know.
Oh my God, that's my favorite one.
Yes.
When she's a little bit older, but I liked her in like Jungle Fever
The Hand Rocks the Cradle.
Rocks the Cradle. Yeah, she's so fucking hot.
Yeah,
oh my God.
Always sucking on that inhaler and it was like turning me on. I'm just kidding.
You know, the scene it always I loved a lot, and this is it's. Who was it? No, it was Rebecca De Mornay that was in that with her.
Right.
This is a completely different movie. I fucked it up. There's a movie called Single White Female where Jennifer Jason Leigh like gets her hair cut and stuff to intentionally make herself look like Bridget Fonda.
Oh, I love that movie.
And at one point she like wakes Bridget Fonda's boyfriend up with sucking his dick.
Yes.
And for a split second he thinks it's his girlfriend. Then he realizes that it's her and he doesn't want her to continue, but he does. And she sucks him off. And oh my God, it's like a 14-year-old kid or whatever. Seeing that, I was like, this is the hottest thing I've ever seen.
Yeah.
You know?
Good movie. It's called Single White Female. Highly recommend it. Beautifully shot. Let's see who directed that film. It was none other than Babette Schroeder, who is a European director who came here to the United States and did some films. He's got a really nice shooting style. Yeah, it was a good movie. Very good. Bridget Fonda, Jennifer Jason Leigh, Steven Weber played the boyfriend, and the rest of the cast are a bunch of unknowns.
Yeah, she was pretty hot in that. Like I said, Jennifer Jason Leigh didn't exactly age super well, but in those days she was still young enough to pull it off, you know? Yeah, but I hated Diner, though. Like going back to that, I really, really hated Diner. The Barry Levinson guy, I like that movie Bugsy that he did.
Yes.
And I like the Pacino film, Man, Justice for All. Let's see, what else has he done? The Natural was okay, I guess. Good Morning Vietnam was okay.
Yeah. Did you ever
Disclosure was okay.
Stephen Me brings up a movie with Keanu Reeves, a 2015 movie named Knock Knock. And
I saw Knock Knock. Yeah, the two girls. Yeah, I saw that.
Ana de Armas, hot as fuck, as Steven says in the chat. You know, for a low budget B movie, I thought that movie was really good. I mean, the payoff at the end was just kind of so-so. But everything leading up to it, you know, this guy's at home at night. His family is gone. He's doing some work. He hopes to meet up with the family. A storm comes. These two beautiful girls come in. They seduce him and so forth. And then all of a sudden the tables turn. They just are, you know, they hold this guy hostage. They beat the shit out of him because apparently one of these girls was molested earlier. And so they're trying to get revenge on any older man who was having sex with women before they're of age. So the premise and the execution was good. The third act was kind of so-so, but I liked that movie. I thought it was a pleasant surprise. I saw it one morning, like at 2, 3 a.m. in the morning, just started watching it and I couldn't stop.
I thought the Keanu gets a bad rap for some reason. There's so many people that just say, "Oh, he can't act," and I've kind of grown up with Keanu. He was in a even before he was like big, like with Bram Stoker's Dracula or Speed. I guess it kind of put him over the top.
Right.
But he made a lot of good '80s movies.
He did.
That were dark, like there one called Permanent Record that deals with how the whole community struggles to rationalize the suicide of a popular kid in their school and how it impacts everybody there because it's a small town. And then there's another one that he's in that's carried, like he's not the lead, he's the sort of the good guy, but it's got Dennis Hopper and Crispin Glover, where the friend, their male friend, like freaks out and chokes his girlfriend to death. And Crispin Glover's like, well, man, he's our boy. He's our dude. We have to help him hide the body, and we have to help him, man. He's our bro. And he takes it seriously, like thinks like this is what friends are for. And then Keanu's like trying to go along with it, but doesn't want to because he's like, man, fuck this. She was our friend too. And eventually he's like part of the, I think he may have tell on our, he tells the police or whatever. But it's called River's Edge, and it's set in like Washington State or somewhere where it rains a lot.
Yeah,
and these are dark films, man. And like I said, those are big chances around the time he's playing, Bill and Ted the first time. So he's making not just a commercially satisfying movie, but he's also making darker films too. I think he's very underrated. People just hate on him.
Yeah, I agree with you. He is a good actor. I don't think he's got a lot of range, but he has taken a lot of risks. He's made some very good movies. I do recall that movie. I'm trying to find out who the director of that movie was with Phoenix, because I think it was like a really well-regarded independent filmmaker.
Are you talking about River's Edge?
River's Edge, yeah. Who the hell was that? It was like Jim Jarmusch or somebody like that. But anyway, I agree with you. He is a bit underappreciated. I wouldn't say underrated. Stephen Me says, Keanu couldn't act. Come on. He was like a piece of wood on screen. He did some good movies like River's Edge and Point Blank, but it was really later movies where he got gold, Goid, G-O-I-D.
I thought, and I love the first Matrix. I thought the first Matrix was fucking fantastic.
Excellent.
It was so deep. It makes you think so much. But the sequel, the sequel and the third one were both just complete and utter dog shit. Even Keanu says that.
Yeah.
For years, he wanted to do another one because he was so let down because they filmed the second one and third one together at the same time. And he said it was so bad that for years he was trying to find a way to like rectify it. He just was so unhappy with it.
Hey, I want to let everybody know, because we've got a lot of new people showing up for the latter part of the show as we're closing things up here, that people were asking, hey, did I miss the Bears talk? We had a lot of Bears talk.
Yeah, we did like 2 hours or so, right?
I was going to say 90 minutes at least, 2 hours. And so hopefully as soon as this show is over, it will be available immediately on YouTube. And then in about an hour or two, it will be available on iTunes, Spotify, Podbean, and all those audio-only delivery podcast stations. So hopefully you guys will go back, because I thought we had a good first part of the show. I'm going to wrap things up here, but there's one thing I wanted to... Damn.
Next week was you're figuring out your thought there. This time next week, we'll be basically cruising out on our first preseason game. So
yeah, I can't wait. Can't fucking wait. And we've got. Did I book somebody for next week's show? Shit, man, my memory is fucked. I am officially going to stop smoking marijuana after 2-3 weeks of smoking marijuana. I went to the dispensary down here, bought some and so forth. And I like the buzz, but man, it really impacts my memory. So I'm probably going to stop that. But I do got to tell you, the other day, I was having a couple of margaritas at home. It was a Saturday night, and had a couple of margaritas. And so late at night, I went out and I had some marijuana along with the alcohol, and I was fucking baked. Dan Aguirre, I was ready to call you and say, man, talk me down, bro.
Well, I was at work until midnight, and I was with Brandy after midnight, so I would have probably been unavailable, and because my phone's always on silent anyway. But.
Yeah. By the way, what you're going to the concert with Brandy next week? Is it?
No, it doesn't come up until the 21st. Okay. I do have a concert coming up on the 16th, but the one with her is on the 21st.
Okay. So, are you going to take us into the bedroom live here in the barroom?
Oh no! And as bad as I was the second time, I would be mortified if you all.
I bet you're being hard on yourself.
I should have been hard on her.
I bet you if we were to talk to her and give her a truth serum, she would still say, "Oh, I love that he was great," and so forth. So
I wasn't great. I was okay. I still think at the end of the day, in a sports analogy, the first encounter, the night with the 3 times, I was so good. It's like a blowout win in the finals. Like I'm up 1-0 and it's huge. In game 2, I may have slopped up to get a win, but I'm going to still call it a loss and say it's 1-1.
I don't know, man. I've got to hear it from her. So
well, on that thought, I do need to go. Unfortunately, as it's already 11:35 my time, and I got to get to work. So
get to work. Get to that job that pays you the real money. We don't pay Dan anything here other than our admiration for his talents. I will talk to you next week, same time, same station, but we'll be texting and communicating otherwise throughout the week. All right, brother?
Yeah, hopefully we can get Robert Quinn back in our tackles and have some semblance of an offensive line.
And I'm going to work on getting Eric Kramer on the show. I'm dying to hear the two of you guys talk.
Yeah. Please sell the point. I need to go, but please sell the point is I'm not trying to sensationalize his troubles. I literally just want to reminisce about his days with the Bears and Lions.
Yeah. And I'll leave you with this. Stephen Me says, Dan's sex life with Brandy on a GoPro camera next week live on the barroom.
Nobody wants to see me naked. I'm like a goddamn polar bear.
The camera will be pointed at her. Okay.
Okay. Yeah. I'm like one of the Coca-Cola fucking polar bears. You know?
All right, brother. Safe travels and have a good day at work.
All right. You be well.
All right. I am going to tell everybody else about some of the stuff we've got going here at the barroom. You know what? Let me see who's still left. We've got a few people left. Maybe I should just kind of reiterate some of the things that I said about Family Fest to close the show. Let me get rid of this graphic here. Dan's a very handsome man, but he's not here, so let's not represent him as such. All right. So I was disappointed. I was really, really disappointed with what I saw at Family Fest. Now, of course, I know it's practice. I know it's the first time they've had pads on. I know all of this stuff, but I'm still looking for a glimmer of inspiration for what's going on. And so the quarterback play was not great often. Justin Fields is still learning the game and learning the processing. He had some nice moments. He had a couple of nice runs. He had a couple of nice passes. He had a number of bad passes too. He was intercepted by Jalen Johnson. Andy Dalton was okay. Nothing tremendous. But the most worrisome thing is this offensive line. Again, the starting offensive tackles, Jermaine Ifedi and Tevin Jenkins, did not play again today. Neither of those guys have been in practice, and I'm starting to get worried that the offensive tackle position could be a huge problem for this Chicago Bears team. There was a lot of moving around in the interior of the offensive line, guys getting different looks, and that's fine. I think it'll settle down, and hopefully this thigh injury that James Daniels suffered isn't going to be serious, because I think it's going to be Daniels, Mustafa, who looks great, and maybe Alex Bars or Cody Whitehair, is definitely in that middle. I think those 3 guys, you got 4 good interior offensive linemen, so I think that's going to be fine. But it's just this outside pass protection and run blocking that is very, very concerning. PJ asked, how did Jenkins look if he played? If he played, that's what that's what I'm worried about, PJ, is we haven't seen him. You know, he has like a total of 8 games in his collegiate career of playing left tackle. We need to see him play left tackle. And then the backup guy that Matt Nagy was talking about confidently that he could, come in at left tackle and he's going to compete with Jenkins. Well, he wasn't on the field at all today either. So there's some issue there. So Ryan Pace was there, looking stoic and looking over the practice field throughout the 3-hour session. I'm thinking to myself, you should fucking be back at Hallis Hall calling other teams and trying to figure out some, move the Nick Foles, call some of these free agent tackles that are out there and get them into camp and take a look to see if they've got any juice left. I'm just worried. I'm really, really worried about the offensive tackles position. And part of it has to do with my paranoia leading up to training camp. When they drafted Tevin Jenkins and let go of Charles Leno, and I'm repeating myself, and I apologize for those who listened to the first half of the show, but my paranoia is okay, they let go of a veteran who never fucking missed a game. Never. Leno, as bad as he played, he was at least there, and now Tevin Jenkins, who has been anointed as the starter at left tackle with very little experience, he's already missed practices, and so it's worrisome. It's very, very worrisome. I mentioned earlier that the running backs looked really good. David Montgomery, in particular, looks sensational. Damian Williams, I think he's going to catch a lot of passes. Damian Williams, and I asked Danny Shimon and Dan Aguirre earlier. I went to the practice with Danny Shimon of Draft on Tap. And I said, Anthony Miller or Damian Williams are going to catch more passes. Miller now with the Houston Texans, I think he's 4th on their wide receiver depth chart. And he says, well, if Deshaun Watson is quarterbacking for the Texans, Miller's going to catch a lot more passes than Damian Williams, the backup running back for the Bears. And I'm like, I don't know, man. I don't know. I think this Damian Williams is going to play a huge role in that passing game, and he could see a lot of passes. Now, the other thing is, I hope that David Montgomery catches a lot of passes too. David Montgomery has to get 20 to 25 touches a game minimum. And so, and how does that happen? It happens by moving the chains. We have to have lots of time of possession with the football, and we have to continue to get new set of downs so that all these guys can play, touch the ball more often. If you want A-Rob to catch 100 passes, if you want Mooney to catch 75 passes, if you want Cole Kmet to catch 70 passes, if you want Damian Williams to catch 50, 60 passes, if you want David Montgomery to have 25 touches per game and so forth, we've got to move the chains. PJ says, did Simmons start at left tackle? Yes, he did see a lot of time at left tackle. He was involved in some pushing and shoving a couple of times. I think Akeem Hicks was like, I'm going to toughen this son of a bitch up. And so they were going at it a bit. Simmons is, I can't honestly say that I saw enough to be critical of Simmons at the left tackle, but I don't think, I have no reason to be optimistic. Larry BARROOM played at left tackle. Matt Nagy said before practice that they wanted to take a look at him. As Matt Nagy says, I don't know if he can play left tackle. That's why we're going to play him some at left tackle. Well, one particular play that I saw and I put up on Twitter, Khalil Mack just blows right past him, moved to the right, went inside and got right past him. All that footwork for Larry BARROOM moving from right tackle to left tackle is all new to him. Perhaps he can develop into one, but as Eric Galco, executive director of the East-West Shrine Game, said to me in an interview recently, this guy, BARROOM, is a guy who is a developmental player. He is a guy who could eventually develop into a good swing tackle, but I don't think he's going to be a significant contributor this season. So it's concerning. PJ, what else you got here? He says, PJ says that's good for Simmons coming from a small college and not having any preseason games last year. Yeah, and that is the good news, is that with these injuries, we get to look at some of these guys, the story of Sam Mustipher is particularly encouraging. Sam Mustipher, undrafted free agent acquisition by the Chicago Bears, played well at Notre Dame, but everyone thought his NFL career was iffy. He sticks around, makes the practice squad when he's needed because of injuries. He shows, because of his leadership and his intelligence, he shows that he can play the center position. Now this year he comes into camp and he looks like the Hulk. He has really, really changed his physique. So a mixture of his improved physicality, his improved physique, and his smarts, his leadership skills. I think Sam Mustipher is going to be an outstanding center. Chubbs is in the ball, and Chubbs, every time I mention Sam Mustipher, you say Sam Mustipher getting blown up in the back row today wasn't very encouraging. Larry looked good. I disagree. Chubbs, were you there? Larry looked a couple plays. Larry didn't look that good at left tackle, and Sam Mustipher, I thought, played very well. At least, again, there's so much going on in the field. There's practice going here, there's practice going there, and there's drills going on in between. So it's hard to see everything. So I'm interested. Chubbs, were you there? And if so, tell me more about why you think Larry BARROOM is going to be a starter in this league, as you just wrote. I hope so. I hope so. But it's and Steven, you're absolutely right. It's practice. PJ asks, Dieter, how did he do? I saw him on a couple of plays and he looked okay. But I can't say that beyond the 2 or 3 plays that I saw him, that there was anything significant to report there. So that's it. That's my kind of report for the Bears. Offensive line is concerning, particularly at the tackle position. The tight ends, Cole Kmet, looked very impressive. The running backs look great. David Montgomery, Damian Williams, some of these other guys who are kind of bubble players. I think the running game, if Matt Nagy was smart, he would be devising an offense that's going to be heavily reliant on the run game, but that's not Matt Nagy's game. So we'll see what he comes up with. Quarterback play was, Dalton was okay. Foles looks like an old man. So if we can trade him for like an empty 6-pack of beer cans, that would be good. But Justin Fields, he's still learning. He's still learning the processing. There were a number of times where Justin Fields would get up to the, like on 7-on-7 drills. There was 2 times where he got up to the line of scrimmage and then he stopped and went back to talk to the coaches. And I think he was just asking them questions and getting to know exactly where people should be and what he should do and so forth. So it's still a learning process for him. Like Danny Shimon told me, the NFL game is totally different. He's going to have to learn how to process. And once he learns, where people are supposed to be, the plays, the play calling and so forth, he's going to be great, but it's just going to take a little while for him to get there. PJ says, Cruz sounds like he has some good potential. Cruz, you must be saying that Olin Cruz sounds that Dieter has some good potential. I hope so. Chubb says Damian Williams is going to make some plays for us. Yes, he is. There's no doubt about that, Chubbs. PJ say Tonga is a beast at nose tackle. No surprise he pushed back Mustipher. Mustipher does have to get stronger. Yeah, and I apparently missed that particular play where Mustipher was blown back by Tonga. So if there's video out there, I will find it and study that. The defense, got to tell you guys, Roquan Smith, he could become the defensive MVP. I mean, if things go well as a team, these guys that usually are defensive MVPs, they've got a lot of support outside, but athletically, I don't know if the Bears have had an inside linebacker that is more athletic than Roquan. I don't think so. Urlacher was a tremendous athletic guy, but Roquan has him beat. Certainly more athletic than Singletary and Butkus. So I think Roquan is going to have a sensational season, and his contract price is going to go up and up and up. Chubbs is saying, I got money on Quan being the defensive player of the year. You got it, brother. That's good money. And PJ says, Roquan is going to get paid. Absolutely. Danny Trevathan looked good at practice today. He looked like the Danny Trevathan from the second half of the season, like he didn't have any rust. And I was paying a lot of attention to him in drills. And so he was exploding to the tackling dummies that they have. They have donuts now that they tackle. And then on the field, when I spied in on him for a few plays, he looks like he's ready to go. And so hopefully he and Roquan are going to have a sensational tandem at the inside linebacker. Some of the backup inside linebackers I thought looked good. Danny Shimon was telling me that he thought Joel Iyiegbuniwe had an excellent practice today. And Josh Woods, there were a couple of plays where Josh made mistakes, but Josh, it looks like he's jacked, man. He looks stronger than ever and could have a really a good year contributing on special teams and in that backup role when those guys need breathers. The cornerback play, Jalen Johnson made a sensational interception. He might have had two. I'm not quite absolutely positive about that, but he was just a lot of the defensive backs and linebackers guarding tight ends and running backs. They were like glue. They were right on the hips of guys. And every once in a while, when a receiver or tight end or something made a good catch, a lot of times it was with pretty good coverage. There wasn't a lot of times where we saw receivers beating defensive backs, easily. They had to work for it. So that's a good sign for the defense and signs that the offense has to still improve. Said it before. We'll say it again here to close the show. I'm a little worried about the wide receivers coach, Mike Furry, who's the guy, we've talked about it a million times on this show. I know people in the chat room have been critical of him as well, but he's Matt Nagy's friend. Everyone has been shifted out. I don't think there's any other offensive coach that is still with the team from Nagy's rookie year other than Mike Furry. And isn't that the position area where we have the most problems in terms of developing the young talent like the Anthony Millers and the Riley Ridleys and so forth? And so maybe he's not communicating. There was one point, Danny Shimon is not a fan of Mike Furry. There was one point where Danny pointed out to me that Furry was telling one of the receivers, I think it was Riley Ridley, to line up inside, and then he was corrected by another coach. No, he's got to be outside. So it appeared that Mike Furry didn't even know the formation that well. So kind of weird. Chubb says, we should have fired the wide receivers coach. Only reason he is there is because he's friends with Maggie, meaning Nagy. Yeah, I think you're right. I think that we have to be a little bit more critical about what's going on. And I hope that the Chicago media, when they get an opportunity to interview Mike Furry, is that they take a little bit more of an adversarial approach to the questioning and really challenge him on what he is doing to make these wide receivers better, because it doesn't appear that this guy, Fury is getting the job done. So PJ says, yeah, he is a disappointment. He's more of a raw guy. And I agree with that. I think that's a really good point, in that he is the kind of guy who perhaps, and again, don't know, I'm not there, but we're just judging based on results primarily. But it does appear like he's more of a guy that is trying to motivate guys than actually teaching a good, solid technique. But who knows? What else did I want to say about the defense? Secondary looked good, as I mentioned. Jalen Johnson's safety play was solid today. The kicking game, Cairo Santos was on it, man. I don't think I saw him miss. The only kick I saw him miss was one that he attempted from the sideline. He was in the team sideline from about 40 yards out, and so he had that really weird angle, and he just missed getting it through. But everything inside the hash lines, he was making it, and that is promising. We need special teams to be really, really good for us this season, and I'm not just talking about getting field goals and extra points. I'm talking about all the special teams players who help give good field position and stop the offense from the opposing team's offense from getting good field position. So that's it. That's my report from Family Fest today. Overall, I was a little bit disappointed with the overall feel of the practice. I was hoping to see some more. Let me play a little video for you. I was hoping to see. Let me see if I still have it here loaded. Yes, I do. This is college tape of Justin Fields. I was hoping to see some of this. Stepping up in the pocket, throwing deep. And he did connect on a couple of deep passes. So I don't want to disparage Justin Fields too much, but I would have loved to have just seen more of this kind of inspirational play and so forth. And it felt lackluster to me today. It didn't help that I was in a bad mood to begin with, but nonetheless, Justin Fields, he's going to be a great quarterback. I just want it to happen now. I want it to happen now. Like Chubb says, Chubbs is totally confident that he's going to be there now, and but that he's going to be great right away. But I don't know. I'm hopeful. Chubbs is saying they are holding him back because they don't want to hurt Andy Dalton's feelings. Fuck Andy Dalton's feelings. PJ is asking about the pocket presence of Fields. I thought it was good. I thought it was good. There were a couple of times where he held the ball too long, and at one point, and it was like there wasn't even a pass rush, but the receiver couldn't get open, and so he's holding the ball, and then finally the coaches whistled the play dead, and I think they were yelling at him, you got to throw it away or something like that. You can't hold it forever. But when there was a pass rush going on, he does have that sixth sense where he can feel the pass rush around him and move in the pocket really well. He had one really nice long run for 30, 40 yards, something like that. So that's encouraging. What else we got here? Andy Dalton has no business starting. The Jets are going to have to worse. Andy Dalton has no business starting. The Jets are going to have a worse player starting. You know what, Chubbs? This whole thing with the Jets, when Nick Foles talked about saying that he didn't want to be traded to some teams, I wonder if he declined the trade to New York because he didn't want to be Zach Wilson's backup. If that's the case, I'm going to be really effing pissed off. But I think Nick Foles' trade value is going to go up. But we need to not play him in any of the exhibition games because people might realize that he's really pretty fucking bad. But the more and more quarterbacks are going to get hurt in the preseason, and so some team is going to call desperate and offer a 6th or 5th rounder for Nick Foles, and it would be nice to get rid of that salary because we got some players to sign. Zach says it's true though. He's responding to something Stephen Mee said that he says it's unfair to scapegoat Furry in his opinion, and Zach is responding saying it's true though. Wims and Miller with discipline issues with the same guy, that points to the coaching, and I gotta say it does. Why? If Furry is such a rah guy, why can't he? Why is there a discipline problem with Javon Wims and former Bears Anthony Miller? So that's weird. And they spent so much time making excuses for Trubisky the last 2 seasons about wide receivers not running their routes correctly. How long does it take to fix that? It's like, and if the players aren't responding to Furry, then could it possibly be Furry that's the problem? Hard to say. I can't say with any 100% conviction, but I am starting to question whether this guy really is the guy that's right for this wide receivers coaching job. So if you dislike Matt Nagy and you're praising or defending Mike Furry, there's a disconnect there for me. So I want to let you know that tomorrow at 2 p.m., the Bar Down guys, I've got a really special show. Lots of great changes with the Chicago Blackhawks over the last couple of weeks. So they're going to get us up to date on the goaltending situation with Marc-Andre Fleury, the signing of what's the guy's name? Seth Jones. His father was an NBA player, by the way, and but he stuck with hockey. And so there's a lot of positive signs that the Blackhawks are going to make a push for the playoffs. And then once they get in the playoffs, you never know what happens. So they're going to share with us that news and all the latest NHL news. And then on Thursday, Crosstown Crosstalk, You guys that love the Cubs, you need to tune into Crosstown Crosstalk because the guys have a special interview planned with one of the recent draft acquisitions for the Chicago Cubs. So it's time to start talking about the future of the Cubs because they're rebuilding. So Vinny and Joey Parisi have lined up a special interview that we will share here on Thursday, Crosstown Crosstalk. We got a lot of other stuff happening at the bar room. I want to see if I got this promo loaded for you guys to see. I don't know if you've seen this, but check this out.
Coming this fall, the Barroom Network presents two fired up Bears fans. They are ready to rumble on the Bear Debate.
That's right. John Buffone and Tyler Ellis, the Gaines Report, are going to square off in a debate. This is going to be like a 30, 40-minute show, really super fast-paced. I'm going to moderate the debates between these guys, and they're going to get like 30, 60 seconds to respond to a question that I'm going to pose, and they're going to go at it. Super fast-paced. It's going to be a super, super fun show. I'm not sure we've seen a podcast quite designed like this. This was John Buffone's idea. We're still tinkering with it a little bit, but I'm super excited. We're going to unveil it really soon. It's going to be another one of our fun shows that covers the Chicago Bears. John is also going to be back with Buffone 55, which is the show that is on midweek. We usually have a guest on who covers the opposing team, so that he provides a scouting report, and then John and his co-host Alyssa Barberi talk Bears football between themselves, and then bring me in for the last third of the show where I share some of my thoughts on the Bears. So that's and then the other John Buffone show is with Tyler Ellis and myself. Then it's Sundays immediately after Bears games, or Monday night, whenever it is they play, and we do a passionate breakdown of that Bears games. Those are three of the shows that you can find that are Bears related, but we have much more. Greg Gabriel, the former scouting director for the Chicago Bears, will be here the day after every Chicago Bears game to share his thoughts on the game, and also share with us what he's hearing around the league in terms of rumors and stuff. He's got so many connections, and talk about scouting. And then we're developing a new show with Danny Shimon, where he's going to break down some tape. Nobody does it better than Danny in terms of breaking down tape, and so we're developing on a show on that. We, of course, have the Barfly Tailgate Show every Sunday morning. You got 4 or 5 super passionate Chicago Bears fans that get you ready for the game. So that's another one of our signature shows here at the Bar Room. The Fantasy Football Goon Show with Joe Mandel. If you play fantasy football, you really, really need to tune in to the Fantasy Football Goon Show, because Joe does a sensational job with the research and helps you win some money on your fantasy football league. What am I forgetting on terms of our football coverage? Probably something, and I apologize if I am, but we've got a lot of great stuff for you here at the Bar Room. And of course, our baseball coverage is going to continue. The White Sox are going to make a deep run in the playoffs, hopefully get to the World Series. So we'll be covering them. And then all the news regarding the Chicago Cubs and what they're doing with the rebuilding, we will cover it here in the Bar Room. Plus, then all the great news with the Chicago Bulls. How about that? Man, it looks like they're going to field a really good team on the court next season and have a strong bench on top of that. I am super excited. And so we've got Bulls 101 on Saturday nights. We've got C-Red Radio on Thursdays. And then we've got a new show joining us, Bulls Gold. That will be an audio-only podcast with Salim Sudarella and Edward Schuler. Those guys really do a great job. This is a great podcast. Their show, Bulls Gold, is up now. If you're a Bulls fan, you should be checking this out. But these guys are coming to the Barroom Network, and we did this little promo tease to welcome them. And of course, we've got the Sportscaster in the Sun with Peggy Kaczynski. And we're also working on another project with Peggy that I'm not going to say anything yet, but it's coming really, really soon. And it's going to be really tremendous. And we've got a number of other things. Really busy here at the Bar Room. We would really appreciate your support. Head over to deepdishtees.com and buy a t-shirt, buy a hat, buy something to help support everything that we're investing into the Bar Room, and let people know. Please subscribe. Tell people about what we're doing here, and tell them if they like naughty talk, they'd like to hear about a rotund guy from Virginia's sex life, then the Aldo Bear Souls is the show to listen to Tuesday nights. Those of you who joined us late, I hope you get to listen to the first half of the show. Dan and I had a lot of fun talking sports. And Steven says Chicago Fire Soccer Hour. You know what? Actually, Steven, we've talked about that. Neil Stopchinski, our Draft on Tap co-host, is a huge Chicago Fire soccer fan. And so there may be a soccer show in our future here. So we want to cover all of Chicago sports. I would love to have a show in the Chicago Sky. They're the WNBA team with Candace Parker. I would love to cover that team. So we're always looking for new podcast shows. And if you've got any suggestions on stuff, would love to hear them. Hit me up on Twitter at Barroom Network. You can also send me an email, Aldo at bearsbarroom.com. PJ says, thanks, Aldo, for catching us up on everything. I appreciate it. I appreciate you, PJ. You're here every week, and you love us talking Bears football, man. We've got you covered, man. You know, you get a lot of great choices. There are a lot of great choices for listening to Bears content. There's podcasts, there's ESPN 1000, there's the Score Sports Radio, there's stuff on NBC Sports Chicago and so forth. You got a lot of great choices, and we hope that you will consider listening to some of our stuff. I think you'll find, at least one of our shows you're going to like. We've got so many of them. I'm sure there'll be at least one. But those of you guys listening to Dan and Aldo Bear Their Souls and us talking nonsense about the Bears, sex, and movies, I really appreciate you guys being here. So that's it for this week. I am going to get some sleep. Actually, you know what I'm going to do now? I am going to watch the replay of Love Island. Look at these girls. Jeez. I'm going to, it's recorded. My wife records it every night, and I go watch it and then jerk off and then go to bed. Good night, everybody. Bye-bye.